This episode is sponsored by Wellgo USA. Horror fans, get ready for your next nightmare. From acclaimed filmmaker Yun Song-ho, the visionary director of Train to Busan, comes Colony, a gripping new Korean zombie thriller where a rapidly mutating virus turns a biotech conference into a fight for survival. With no way out and the infected evolving by the minute, every second counts. Experience Colony, only in theaters August 29th. Get your tickets now.
And welcome back to Horror Queers. We're talking, you know this earthling, this person. We're talking, he's okay. And we're talking, so come up to the lab and see what's on the slab. I see you shiver with anticipation. And I'm Joe.
And I'm Trace, and we're talking, then if anything grows while you pose, I'll oil you up and rub you down. I
was like, how long is it going to take one of us to sing? And the answer is less than 30 seconds.
You know, it's kind of wild because, like, in terms of the actual song list, this isn't my favorite musical, but
okay.
I tend to like the songs that are more, like, traditionally musically, like Touch Me.
Right.
Because everyone, yes, we are discussing the Rocky Horror Picture Show, directed by Jim Sharman, and arguably the most successful cult movie ever made?
Right. If it's not, it's definitely up there. And of course, folks, we're doing this not around Halloween, which maybe would have been more appropriate, because yes, we'll talk about things like Shadowcast and Trace's experience with the film, but no, it's our 400th episode.
Oh my God.
And we wanted to do something special.
Absolutely. 400 episodes, Joe. I mean, I remember when we started this podcast, we were like, man, you know, if we could like make it to 5 years, that would be great. And here we are, 7 years in and 400 episodes in. We're practically to 500 at this point.
Well, the ironic thing is that if you look at how many episodes we actually have on Patreon, we are closer to like 800.
Oh, yeah. I mean, yeah. Again, everyone, that Patreon is basically another entirely, like, not a different podcast. It's still us.
It's a separate feed.
Well, if you want to hear our thoughts on all the recent horror films that are coming out, then yeah, you should definitely be logged on to patreon.com/horrorqueers and subscribing there. Mm-hmm. Look at me doing all these plugs.
Mm-hmm. It only took you 400 episodes.
I'm not good at the organic self-promo. But anyway, okay, Rocky Horror Picture Show, Joe. So yeah, what is your experience with this movie?
So, you know, as we are up to do, we reflect back on, is this a new film? How many times have you seen it? What was your introduction? And I was hard-pressed to remember. I think I watched this at a Halloween party because I used to invite some friends over and we would watch scary movies. But, like, I didn't know that this thing was a cult phenomenon. I didn't know about the concept of Shadowcast. I think my parents had to tell me. And I'll admit, the first time I watched it, I thought it was very odd. Like, I didn't fully understand it, but I could understand the appeal because it was so unusual. You know, I think the sexuality kind of flew over my head. This would have been when I was an early teenager, deeply sexually repressed. So I didn't have a queer awakening to it like a lot of people did. You know, we're going to cite a couple of different folks, and there's an entire cultural studies anthology about people recognizing their queerness or having a relationship to this film indebted to its queerness because it's such an important text.
Yeah, I first saw this in college. It was my freshman year of college, and I had known about the legacy, but not even necessarily the queer legacy behind it, just that it was a cult film.
Right.
And I mean, my parents were not Rocky Horror fans. Like, I remember I asked them about it, and they were kind of like, "It's kind of weird." And it was very much, that's you're not old enough to watch that movie yet. And so,
no, Mama Trace would never.
But here's the thing, though. So I was always fascinated by the concept of an R-rated movie musical. Like, that was something where I was like, because I was a musical theater kid. I was a theater kid who leaned more toward musical theater than like straight plays. But I was like, oh my God, an R-rated musical. Like, what is that going to be like?
What's the content of this? Why is the R justified?
Yeah. And so I did finally get to see this. Like, I didn't know anyone who really liked this movie, except I had one girlfriend in high school who went to my college with me. So Perry, thank you out there for introducing me to this show.
Perry.
But, on our college campus, there was a Shadowcast presentation. Now, granted, this wasn't like in a movie theater. It was in like one of like a room on campus.
Oh, okay.
But there was still a Shadowcast with it. And I watched it and I thought it was fine. Like I was, I think it was the thing where I had built up in my head again, like, what is this like sexually graphic R-rated musical that I have not been allowed to watch for 19 years and blah, 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 blah. And even to this day, I watch this movie and I'm like, this is rated R? Like, what? It's all innuendos. Like, there's not even any real graphic sexuality in it. I mean, yeah, there's definitely like a lot of sensuality. We say fuck once in this movie, I think, but I was so much more focused on, oh, wow, that wasn't really as like salacious as I thought it was going to be for my first viewing. And I kind of had a similar experience most times I watch. Like, I have seen this movie several times over the past, almost now 20 years since I first seen it. But I realized I'd only seen it with a shadow cast in a theater, really rambunctious. And when I saw it that first time in college, I got the V and lipstick for Virgin on my forehead. I was participating in that. But I think I realized that because of my ADHD, like watching a movie like that and only like that.
For the first time, yeah.
Yeah, but then every subsequent viewing I had was pretty much the exact same thing. It was really hard for me to pay attention to the details of this movie when I'm surrounded by, again, a I mean, if y'all have never been to a Rocky Horror Picture like midnight show or one with the shadow cast, it's a lot of fun.
Sure. But you're not watching the movie, really.
Yeah.
You're participating in it.
Not really. And so when I watched truthfully, Joe, I was a little nervous programming this for episode 400 because I was like, oh God, like, I mean,
You don't like it all that much. Well, and then you discovered, oh, I've never really just watched the film as a film.
Yeah. And so I popped it in to watch it and I was like, oh, this is really good.
It's fun. It's a lot of fun.
Very much so. So, I mean, again, I don't think I needed to come around on this movie because I never disliked it. It just never was really my vibe.
Right.
But I definitely needed that. Oh, I just need to watch this by myself and like really pay attention to it. And something clicked for me on this rewatch.
Yeah, I've had a couple of experiences where I've gone to like a drag performance or a live commentary of something. And if you haven't seen the film, that is a terrible experience as a first time watch because it truly is. It's distracting. You're not actually watching the movie. You're doing the other things that make that viewing experience unique, which is great, but only if you have a familiarity with the text.
Well, and I think this is a completely me thing. Like I fully acknowledge that, but I think it felt like every time I went to one of these Rocky Horror screenings, it felt like I was kind of on the outside looking in, or like I was surrounded by this cult that I wasn't fully enmeshed in. And so, I don't know, there was like this weird FOMO feeling in me where I was like, what the fuck am I missing here?
I'm not getting this.
And I think for a while, I actually held it against the film. Like, where I was just like, what, like, I don't get it. But I do get it now. And honestly, like I think you're right. That queer aspect of it. There's such a queer joy on display in this film that I really resonated with as a 37-year-old man now.
Right. Yeah. Sometimes you just take a little extra time to come around to something. But also, I do think appreciating this film and how radical it is. Like, I appreciate what you're saying about, it's not the most salacious R-rated text we've ever seen. But especially when you position this in 1975.
Yeah.
I do think that this is quite revolutionary.
Oh, I mean, again, everything with Frankenfurter is just like, whoa, I could not believe we were putting this like at a wide release on theaters in 1975.
Yeah. Okay. So I will confess, I know of the film, I know of the shadow cast and that kind of stuff. I don't know any details about how this came to be. So part of my surprise I'm anticipating is going to be you telling me the production about how does a movie like this even get made?
Okay. Actually, I think it's a really good story. So, everyone, I'm pulling most of this actually from a relatively recent piece of media. This is from last year's 2025 documentary, Strange Journey, The Story of Rocky Horror, which was directed by Linus O'Brien, the son of Rocky Horror creator and riffraff in the film, Richard O'Brien.
Right.
And I gotta say, like, I think if you're a Rocky Horror superfan, there's not gonna be a ton of new information in this documentary for you.
Okay.
But if you ever, like, kind of like me, been like, okay, like, it's a cult film, but, like, how did this thing become such a phenomenon?
Right.
This is a really good, like, primer for you, which admittedly condensing into what's going to be a 40-minute production history, but still.
Okay, so we are recommending the documentary. It is freely available now. So if you want a little bit more detail, go and check that out. And now, Trace, take it away.
Okay, so in 1964, at the age of 22, Richard O'Brien was living in New Zealand, and he got on a boat and spent 5 weeks at sea from Auckland to England, where he did like odd jobs, cleaning houses, pumping gas, and was learning how to act in a drama class called the Actors Workshop, which, because it was in Britain, was a faux copy of the Actors Studio in New York.
Okay.
I should point out that O'Brien is transgender and identifies himself as a third gender and uses he/him pronouns, but he considers himself 30% female and 70% male, saying, "I may have been in the closet, but the door was wide open."
You know what? I actually love that descriptor.
Yeah, I think so too. O'Brien eventually got cast in a production of Gulliver's Travels before going on a tour in a production of Hair, which would have been new-ish around this time.
Right, which is also pretty sexual. It's very revolutionary itself.
Actually, yeah, because when I was a kid, my parents would buy those season passes, like whatever like the Broadway Across America was in Houston. And I remember when Hair came, it was one of the first productions they put on where they gave a warning because there's a sequence in Hair where everyone gets naked and there's full frontal nudity in it.
Okay, I was not expecting that.
Oh, yeah, man. Yeah, they get under a giant parachute. Their bushes are all... It's lit very low. So the funny thing is, all I can remember from that sequence is that you can see their outlines of people and you can see their bushes because I think they were all wearing merkins.
Okay. I mean, it is a production called Hair.
It is a production called Hair. But anyway... During that time, Jesus Christ Superstar was being mounted, and everybody in Hair auditioned for that. So,
okay.
O'Brien got a bit part, but then he was eventually contracted to take over the role of King Herod. But that show's producer, Robert Stigwood, did not like his portrayal and fired him after his first performance.
Oh, wow. One and done.
Yeah, one and done. But the director of that particular production of Jesus Christ Superstar was Australian Jim Sharman, who pulled O'Brien aside and told him, hey, look, I know this didn't work out, but I would love to work with you again in the future, despite producer Stigwood's opinion.
Okay. Well, that's nice, at least.
Yeah, and this is all just kind of the preamble to what would become Rocky Horror, because this was 1972, and O'Brien's son Linus had just been born. And shortly after that, he reached out to Jim Sharman and told him, hey, I'm writing my own musical, can I send you some samples to listen to? And he goes, you know what, no, I'll come over. I'll bring someone and we'll have a good time. So Sharman came around with a very reluctant Richard Hartley, who he was a composer and musical director who wasn't really excited about doing another rock musical because that's all anyone was doing at the time. So in addition to Jesus Christ Superstar and Hair, we also had things like Pippin and Grease and Godspell. And Hartley was just like, I'm so fucking over this trend. I don't want to do this anymore.
Okay, you're much more knowledgeable about this kind of stuff than I am, but are those all considered rock musicals? I would not have considered Jesus Christ Superstar a rock musical.
Oh, see, the one that I was confused about was Pippin, because I've never seen Pippin, but I always thought it was like a fairy tale type thing. But no, it is considered a rock opera, actually.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So when they came over, though, O'Brien played a science fiction double feature for them 3 times, along with a few other songs he had kind of tinkered with, and he also read them some of the script. And Sharman was kind of like, okay, give me a couple days to absorb all of this. So
right.
He left and came back about 3 to 4 days later, told O'Brien that, hey, the people at the Royal Court Theatre wanted me to do another play, and I told them I will do a show there as long as I can have 3 weeks fun, that's a direct quote, upstairs first. He told O'Brien that he wanted to do his sci-fi rock show and that he needed another 20 pages and 5 songs in 2 days.
Oh, Jesus God.
I know. I was like, I can't even imagine. I mean, it feels like it'd be easier for me to write 20 script pages than write 5 songs in 2 days. But I don't know.
I wonder if you're just musically inclined. If this is okay, I'm going to take a shower. I'll write one there. I'm going to buy groceries. I'll write one there. I think for some people this would come very naturally. To me, it's just that very restrictive time deadline. I would immediately start sweating.
That 100%. I would be so stressed about the deadline that I would end up procrastinating and not getting anything done. So.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yay.
Oh, I've got 1 hour until the deadline and I've just been masturbating for the last 48 hours. Got it.
Yeah, that's what I do in my free time when I'm procrastinating. Absolutely. Interestingly enough, though, the original title of the show was They Came from Denton High.
Boo.
Well, because we're parodying like these sci-fi movies in the 40s and 50s. And so,
sure. It's a terrible title.
Oh, absolutely. And Sharman convinced O'Brien to change it to The Rocky Horror Show since that communicated exactly what the show was, a rock horror musical.
Right.
So they went to work with O'Brien writing the songs, and Hartley would then finesse them to make them blossom. And they hired set designer Brian Thompson to come up with all the visuals, and then costume designer Sue Blaine, who was a last resort because apparently costume designers around the country kept turning the gig down.
Weird. Do you know why or?
No, I don't. And the only thing I can think of is because of the subject matter of the show. If maybe they were like, oh, this is lowbrow. Like, this isn't like quote unquote real theater.
Much Flocky B stuff, right?
Yes, exactly that. But with casting, Sharman wasn't looking for actors with particularly strong voices. And during auditions, he was looking in their eyes thinking, is this an interesting person? What will they actually bring to this that isn't already there? Because the way that Rocky Horror is, I've never seen the actual stage production of Rocky Horror, but
No.
it's kind of a more audience interactive where the stage is there, but it seems like a lot of the performances are sung either on scaffolding that's kind of placed around the auditorium or within the seats of the theater itself. And so it's a very like immersive experience. And so rather than saying, oh, we need like the best singers, it's like, oh no, we need people that are going to like create this infectious energy in the audience itself.
Right. We need people who can do crowd work, who can engage with people one-to-one and so on.
Yeah, it's almost like more circus performers than Broadway stars.
Okay. Also, you know I'm a complete fucking asshole because as soon as you said people who don't have strong singing voices, and I just went, oh, so that's how Susan Sarandon got involved.
Oh, trust me, we'll talk about all the singing. I think Sarandon's fine
She's
here.
fine.
It's very breathy. It's a very breathy performance.
It is indeed.
I think her acting is pretty good in this movie, though.
Oh, yeah, she's very fun.
But, okay, so enter Tim Curry, who lived next door to a gym, and he bumped into Richard O'Brien as he was coming out of that very same gym. And O'Brien told Curry, hey, like, I'm looking for a muscle man who could sing, meaning the Rocky part. And he continued to tell him about the musical. And so Curry read the script and loved it, and he asked to read for the part of Dr. Frankenfurter. And when he first started doing this, like when he came to audition, he actually employed a German accent since the character was called Frankenfutter, like in a German way.
Right, yep.
But one day he was on a bus in London and a woman sitting in front of him spoke to him with, he describes it as a queen-like British accent. Like not just British, but a queen-like British accent.
Right,
And
very regal.
And that's when he adopted what would become Frankenfurter's vocal affectation, saying he ought to sound like the queen or a queen.
I mean,
Yeah.
if the crown fits.
Exactly, right? He is quite a queen. So that's Curry. Honestly, I didn't know that half of the cast in the movie were the original roles in the stage production.
Yeah, I did know that, except for the Americans.
Yeah, except for the Americans. Now, Patricia Quinn, who plays Magenta, wasn't actually even that impressed with her part in the script because I guess in the stage play, Magenta only had 4 lines, but...
Oh.
It was one of those things where, this part has multiple roles. So she was playing Magenta, but she also played the usherette, who sang the opening song, Science Fiction Double Feature, at the top of the show. So,
Yeah, you get to open the fucking show.
yeah, so that greatly appealed to her. Like, she didn't give a shit about Magenta. She just wanted that song.
Which is wild. Like, I feel the people who especially got involved in the shadow cast or people who are attracted to women would definitely say, oh, Magenta's a great role.
Right, but I think if you're like just looking at the part, she doesn't do that. Like, a lot of her stuff are these background things. So you're kind of like, oh, that's a little funny thing she's doing, but she's not like a major part of the movie up until the climax.
That is fair. Yeah.
Now, Brian actually wanted to play Eddie, the biker in the freezer role.
The Meatloaf role.
Yes, who, and of course, Meatloaf did not originate the stage play.
No.
But O'Brien wanted to do this because it was just a one-time appearance. You pop in, do your song, and you're out. But Sharman said, no, you should play Riff Raff because you have these gaunt features that really fit an Igor-like character.
Wow. Read me with a backhanded compliment.
One of the first things Sharman asked O'Brien to do, though, was write a song for the three servants, Magenta, Riff Raff, and Columbia, so that they could all do a dance together. And O'Brien went home with his then wife, and they invented a dance, and then he wrote a song to match the dance. So before rehearsal started the next morning, O'Brien swung by Hartley's tiny basement flat, and they finessed the chorus and arrived on time for rehearsal with The Time Warp, which was because I think that's the thing I'm missing from this musical, like the context I'm missing. Like, as I said at the top, it's not my favorite soundtrack when it comes to musicals. Like, I don't love a lot of these songs.
But you also don't love a ton of rock music.
I mean, it's not even that I'm opposed to rock music, but I think, yeah, when it comes to musicals, unless it's a jukebox musical where I, like, know the songs that we're, like, doing there, because, it's like Mamma Mia or fucking, like, American Idiot or something, I just prefer more traditional, like, musical-y style songs, which, again, is kind of why musicals are dying out now, because modern audiences don't like more musical-y style songs, but...
Oh, my God.
Either way, but the context, it was a lot of these songs are parodying music of the time. And so the Time Warp is very much parodying, like, again, any kind of these songs that spoke the steps of the dance in their lyrics.
Yeah.
Sharman's approach was to be inventive, improvisatory, and playful. They were looking for another way to present the work, and were looking at some radical, experimental Eastern European ways of putting the audience above the action and looking down on it. And the theater they were opening was a tiny 60-seat theater. So this was like...
so intimate.
Yeah, this was like a fringe effort. Like, this was not even going on, like, the West End on Broadway or whatever, you know? But they didn't treat it as a theater. They treated the whole space as the stage. So the entire set, like, to elaborate on what I said earlier, the entire set was one chair and a bunch of scaffolding all over the theater, but the stage itself was very tiny, which means they had no place to put the band. So what they did was they made the backdrop a cinema screen and put the band behind that. But as far as I can tell, there was nothing actually painted on the cinema screen. It was just a blank cinema screen.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah. So again, it kind of merged this idea, like merging theater and film, because, I mean, what's the final act of the film? But we're filming people on a stage.
Yeah.
Yeah, which we can talk about how effective that is or not, because, yeah. Anyway, so Sharman was educated in film by seeing late-night movies, and he was very educated in film by watching Weimar cinema, and he was educated in the theater by understanding Weimar cabaret. This is German stuff, you know?
I was going to say, the name is sounding very German.
Yeah, but all of this came to play in Rocky Horror, and he also, this is weird, was, in a good way, well, he was brought up in a traveling boxer troupe, so he saw lots of fairgrounds, but he also directed Shakespeare and Mozart, he said. So he wanted to merge high art and low art in Rocky Horror, which would have been a very new concept for the time period. You know, we weren't blending these two things at the time.
That is so fascinating. And also, what a wealth of experience. I mean, the diversity there is, so expansive.
Well, and I think that's why, too, like, anyone that would just come to this and be like, oh, what is this schlock? It's like, no, there's actual, like, artistry on display here. It's just mixing a bunch of different things that don't normally go together. And I think, honestly, that might add to the camp aspect of it.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it feels like this is a cultural quilt of different things. I actually spent my most recent rewatch when I was preparing for this episode thinking, is this a meta text? Because it's so self-aware of all of these 40s and 50s movies.
Yeah, 100%. And so it is a thing where it's like that context, I think, is sometimes what I'm missing. But I still think you can enjoy the movie if you don't know what they're referencing. Because it's not even a direct parody of any particular film. It's more so like the broad tropes of the time.
Yeah, like I don't get half the references in double feature picture show.
Oh, no, I was, every time they mentioned a name, I looked it up and I was like, oh, okay, cool. I get that. I get that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Didn't get it, but cool.
So after two previews, the show premiered on June 19th, 1973, and the opening was a phenomenal success. Like, the reviews the next morning were glowing. Even the Daily Mail, which I think is a pretty conservative publication now, gave it a rave review. So they knew the show would probably have legs, and they were scheduled to run for 1 month, ending on July 20th that same summer.
Okay. Also, I had to laugh because you said great legs, and I thought, yeah, like everyone in this cast.
Well, we do have a lot of people in fishnet stockings, so.
Yes. We're seeing some skin.
But each showing of this show sold out very quickly, to the point where you couldn't get tickets, and it became this huge hit, transferring to the 230-seat Chelsea Classic Cinema on Kings Road, which then ran from August 14th to October 20th, and then on November 3rd, it moved to the 500-seat Kings Road Theater. And so we went from a 60-seat theater to a 230-seat theater to a 500-seat theater in half a year.
Wow. Okay, I'm going to put you on the spot. You probably don't know the answer to this, but they must have had to change the way that the show was then structured, because obviously in these larger theaters, they would just be on stage for the most part.
I don't think so. I think they would have the backdrop moved up and they would just kind of expand. It's like just a literally bigger space. Right. So they would just have to kind of re-block and re-choreograph to fit a larger space. That's what it sounds like to me.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah. Now, okay, so things are taking off now. Los Angeles-based film and record producer Lou Adler saw Rocky Horror because his girlfriend, The Wicker Man's Britt Eklund, Hello Willow song, I know.
Heyo, previous episode.
She told him, though, oh yeah, the Rocky Horror Show is the rage of London right now. So,
also, is it called the Rocky Horror Show, or is it the Rocky Horror Picture Show?
No, the film is the Rocky Horror Picture Show. The show, the stage, because it's a picture. It's not a movie. Think of it as the Rocky Horror Movie Show.
Okay.
Yeah, but no, the show is the Rocky Horror Show.
Got it.
Yeah. But anyway, so Lou Adler comes, he sees the show, and he wanted to make a deal that night. And the deal moved very quickly, and he set it up at the Roxy in Los Angeles because it had a cabaret-style seating that would let you do things you couldn't do in a regular theater.
Oh, yeah. No, that's a much better space. It's very in tune with what they were trying to accomplish.
Exactly. And so the cast for the Rocky Horror Show at the Roxy was composed of a bunch of local LA actors, but they did bring over Tim Curry because they didn't think any other actor could replicate his performance. And to that, I'm kind of like, or is it just because you didn't want to, you couldn't find an actor to do this particular role? I don't know.
I mean, I'm sure somebody else could do it because, of course, we've gotten many different iterations of Dr. Frankenfurter, and even in the Shadow cast, right? It's obviously an integral role, but people will be happy to jump into those stilettos. But I think when you see what Curry can do with this, it is hard to imagine. If he's already doing that role, why would you ever try to recast it? Because, I mean, everybody is good in this, but Tim Curry is on a whole other level.
And I think it does make sense for the stage production. We'll talk about the film, though, obviously in a second. But anyway, So the show premiered in LA on March 24th, 1974. So less than a year after it opened in London in that 60-seat theater. And in LA, it ran for 9 months. So the show immediately attracted the attention of Hollywood bigwigs who wanted to turn it into a movie immediately, which I'm like, okay, like that, wow.
That's impressive.
Mick Jagger's company approached Richard O'Brien wanting to buy the film rights, but Sharman told him, do not sell them, because if you do, that means that we will not be doing the show. Like, it's not going to be in our hands anymore.
No, absolutely not. Somebody else would just take it over.
So Adler, this producer Lou Adler, his attorney at the time was a man named Gordon Stuhlberg. And coincidentally enough, Stuhlberg had just moved on to become the head of 20th Century Fox. And I love this. Fox wanted him when their future was threatened by banks intending to call in their loans, which they had offered to extend only if they hired Stuhlberg as the head of the studio.
Wow. Okay. So this guy was powerful.
He had some sway, we'll put it that way.
Okay.
He would have a good tenure. Like, he would greenlight things like Star Wars. So, I mean, like, that's like, he had a pretty good tenure, but he also greenlit flops like the Rocky Horror Picture Show. So that connection, though, gave Adler the real possibility of making a deal. So he invited Stuhlberg to the show and told him to bring his kids with him, which he knew would help him understand the appeal of it, because after watching it, Stuhlberg did not get the appeal of the show.
Okay. I mean, it does feel very countercultural, like it's appealing to younger people.
I think that, well, again, younger people and queer people, if they had discovered it. But which though is funny, though. He's like, bring your kids, which is, I mean, again, a pretty raunchy show, but it's all in your window, so it might go over their heads. Who knows?
Well, I guess it depends on how young are we talking about, too. Like, are the kids under 10 or are they teenagers?
Yeah. But a deal was struck that allowed many people from the original stage show to work on the film, including the crew. So Sharman, the show's director, was brought on as the film director. The set designer, Brian Thompson, was allowed to be the art director. Tim Curry was allowed to play the lead role, something very rare, especially when it's Hollywood money. You have to understand, like, at this point, this is Tim Curry's first movie. He is only known as a stage actor in London, so he has no box office draw whatsoever. It is so incredibly rare for a stage play to be adapted into a film with the cast from the stage play, unless that cast is already famous.
Well, and especially, you said, this is such an expedited timeline. It's not like, oh, we've got 10 years of playing these roles under our belts.
Yeah, but at the same time, it's like, I mean, with something with subject matter that I'm going to say is this risky for 1975, I'm surprised they wouldn't have tried to get more quote-unquote names to make this a bigger box office draw.
Right. Well, this is where you're going to tell me about the Americans.
Well, okay, so, but because the film cost because the budget they had was under $1 million, basically, and to be very truthful, producer Michael White and Lou Adler guaranteed the $1 million, so that the film didn't complete filming or didn't come out well, they would be the losers, not Fox. So I guess, like, Stuhlberg was like, look, yeah, I'll give you the resources you need, but you have to put up this budget and, you know, we'll go from there. Yeah, pretty much, yeah. So when Sharman was told how low the budget was, he immediately realized that he wasn't going to be making a Hollywood film, but rather an underground film in the line of things that like Andy Warhol was making at the time. Again, y'all see he didn't really make these films, but see previous episodes on Flesh for Frankenstein and Blood for Dracula.
Oh, right.
But Mick Jagger, Lou Reed, and David Bowie all wanted to play Frankenfurter.
Of course they did.
Sharman said no, and stuck by his original cast. He was like, no, I want everyone to be, like, I want everyone that was over there to come back.
I'm trying to imagine this movie with Mick Jagger, and I feel like it would work, but it would just be different. Very
I feel
different.
Like out of those three, I would want to see David Bowie in the role.
I mean, the androgyny alone, right?
Yeah. But yes, okay, so the roles of Brad and Janet, though, did need to be filled. And Barry Bostwick had actually kind of been partially involved because he found out about the Los Angeles stage production through casting director Joel Thurm, who was the casting director for the film. He asked him to come to LA and do the production at the Roxy, but Bostwick wasn't interested in doing stage work, but told Thurm, hey, reach out if there's ever a movie.
I'm sorry, I'm not really interested in the stage, but call me if you ever go to camera.
And that's exactly what happened. So, Susan Sarandon came about indirectly. Thurm knew she wanted to do the project, but her agents did not want her to do the audition.
The content.
And she wasn't a big name at this point. I mean, she had done films before, but she wasn't a big name yet. Her star would be on the rise in the early 80s.
Right.
But Thurm told Bostwick, hey, you're coming in to audition. Why don't you just bring Susan Sarandon with you? That way her agents don't think it's her audition. She's just coming to tag along.
Right. And also then it becomes a chemistry test.
Exactly. So Thurm was actually reading Janet's part during Bostwick's audition, and he was like, you know what? You're here. We have a girl here. Hey, Susan, can you just read Janet since you're the only woman in the room?
Oh, subterfuge.
Yeah, but it all worked out since Sarandon and Bostwick were the two Americans in the cast, being the outcast in a sea of Brits. So life imitated art. Their chemistry was there. They were like, okay, this is perfect. And Susan Sarandon, I mean, it sounds like she just like ran away from Hollywood to hop on this plane to go film it in London and was like, maybe they won't notice.
Right. I'm not famous yet. Nobody's going to notice.
Yeah. So filming begins on October 21st, 1974, and ran until December 19th of that same year. So we're just shy of 2 months of filming. But it was a 6-week shoot, and shooting a musical in 6 weeks is practically unheard of.
Yeah. Because it's like dance and singing, and like these are not small sets.
No, but I think, though, because, like, you know, it's not the most polished musical performances. Things aren't always in synchronicity and things like that. So it's intentional, but it's also, like, the excuse of, like, hey, we're rushing. We don't have time to, like, get this perfect.
Sure.
Sarandon, like, her living conditions, she had nowhere to stay, and she said she moved to a new apartment every few days.
Ugh.
Bostwick said that he was cold and miserable most of the time, but it was all fun. It kept the style of what the theater had presented. Again, this kind of underground fringe thing that was now a film.
Right. And of course, one of the most notorious production details is that Susan Sarandon did end up contracting pneumonia.
That's not surprising. I mean, again, they're wet for like a good chunk of this movie.
Yeah.
I mean, in more ways than one.
Oh.
Producer John Goldstone found a country house called Oakley Court near Maidenhead, Berkshire, England, that had been used for many Hammer horror films. And this was right next door to Bray Studios, which was quite small with only half a dozen sound stages, and it wasn't particularly well equipped. But this suited Sharman just fine, who wanted to make the Rocky Horror Picture Show, as it was now called, an homage to those Hammer horror films that he loved so much that were, again, filmed at this castle.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah. So all of the quote-unquote bad, because that's the other thing, you know, I feel like before I had actually seen this film, I had heard it described as, oh, it's one of those so bad it's good films.
Oh, interesting. I had never heard it described that way.
And see, I had heard that, and again, part of it was my parents, but I had heard that or maybe read that online at some point when I was like trying to learn stuff as a kid about movies. But either way, in the production, all of the quote-unquote bad effects and quote-unquote bad filmmaking, it was all deliberate. Things like people, again, not dancing in synchronicity, which people thought were errors at the time, those were things that were meant to subvert the form. But here's the thing, though. Like, you know when we watch a movie today, when we're like, oh, it's trying to be a bad movie, it's trying to be a B movie, and it comes across, like, disingenuous, artificial, and, like...
Oh, it's so fake. Yeah, try hard.
Exactly. Well, that is what the Rocky Horror Picture Show was doing. However, it was trying to emulate one while also trying to legitimately be a B movie. And so... Yeah. On a shot-to-shot basis, you can't tell which aspect is which seemed to confuse a lot of people at the time. But I think, again, that's where the queer component comes in. Like, it doesn't follow the rules. It's coloring outside the lines of what we know as quote-unquote good or genuinely good filmmaking.
Yeah. And honestly, I would even push back on people saying, oh, there's a bunch of bad filmmaking on display here. Watching it this time... I was so impressed with Sharman's direction. Like, he gets some really interesting angles. I love all of the wacky different transitions that we're using in the editing. So I was almost more appreciative of the level of technical craft. Like, is it polished? I'm going to say no in certain regards. Like, I definitely noticed, oh yeah, when, you know, we line up at the end for the big chorus line, they are not kicking in sync. And that is totally fine. But I think the film itself, as a production, as a film, it's so watchable and often very interesting in terms of its framing and composition.
Well, and I'll say, though, so what you're saying, interesting, because I agree, there are some very interesting and unique and maybe not the norm camera angles or positions in this movie. And so I think while we are now saying, oh, yeah, that's really interesting that they chose to do that, because that's, again, not what you would normally see in a film. That was viewed as, oh, no, that's bad, because that's not the norm. Yeah, exactly. It's literally queering the camera angle, and people didn't like that. I'm sorry.
Boo.
Legitimate people didn't like that, quote unquote.
Legitimate people. How about regular audiences and critics?
Yeah. Now, Sharman said, though, and this is a direct quote, "The show is a rock and roll show, and the film is a surreal dream. I wanted to take the audience into a different world where ambiguity was the norm, not the exception." And he goes on to say that their main goal for the film was not to lose the intimacy of the play. And I think we get because there's a lot of moments, too, where... Again, you can't really tell if it's an accident or if it's intentional, where people just make direct eye contact with the camera.
Yep. Oh, there were so many times where I said, we're playing to the camera right now. Like, we're breaking the fourth wall actively.
And sometimes it's like, okay, this feels like a joke, where they say something, they look at the camera like, haha, that's a joke.
Yeah,
but then other times it's like, oh, like Tim Curry's kind of like walking across the screen, and during the walk, he makes a quick passing glance at the camera. It's like, again, it does make us feel very immersed in the world of the show.
Absolutely.
Now, while all of this was going on, Adler was going to get the stage production set up on Broadway, wanting to use that to garner interest in the film. So they were basically like, okay, we're going to shoot the film, then we're going to open on Broadway, and then once it's on Broadway, that's going to build up all this buzz that will basically save us a marketing budget for the movie.
Sure, works in theory.
Yeah. And the film was set to come out in the fall of 1975. So... The Rocky Horror Show opened on Broadway in early 1975 in the Belasco Theater. But here's the thing. It was not a hit.
Oh.
This stage play bombed on Broadway. It closed after 45 performances over the course of 40 days. But O'Brien said they could have closed on the first night. Like, it was that bad from the beginning.
Wow.
And remember, like, all these people, I mean, with the exception of, like, Susan Sarandon and Barry Bostwick, like, they've gone from London to filming a movie to Broadway, because they've been involved this entire time.
And it was hit, and then all of a sudden, oh no.
Well, so according to all parties, there was a lot of snobbery from the New York theater scene because they were coming from Los Angeles. And
those bitches, those coastal elites.
Mm-hmm. LA was seen as blingy and cheap and tacky, and not helping matters was that before the show actually opened, Adler took out a full-page ad in Billboard that said, "Give our regards to Broadway and tell them we're on our way, signed Rocky," or Rocky Horror. Basically, like New York theater people hated that. Like they were like, "Oh, you're a show that hasn't opened here yet. You're already referring to yourself as a hit. We've got your number."
Wow.
The reviews were horrific. Like, "Oh, Rocky Horror is just that. Like, it is horrifying."
Right. You sealed your own death keel just by putting horror in the title. Like, cool. Mm-hmm. All of these dismissive critics are going to write themselves now.
Yeah, and Curry said, because on this documentary, they get interviews with everybody, including Tim Curry, who hasn't been, like, very active because I think he suffered a couple strokes in the past few years.
Yeah, he's gotten quite ill.
Mm-hmm. But he does say, he said, like, when the play closed in Manhattan, it was like somebody had let all the air out of a balloon. And he said, and I quote, "It sucked all the energy out of me." So they thought that their 3-year whirlwind of a ride was over. But hey, they still had the release of the movie to look forward to.
Right. Yay. And this is going to go swimmingly, right, Trace?
Not really. So... Okay. The 100-person sized marketing department of 20th Century Fox watched the film and were deadly silent after the credits rolled.
No. So they didn't get it, and now they have no idea how to sell it.
Yeah, they said there was a deafening silence in the theater. Slowly, each person would just get up and leave. And so they had no idea what they were doing with this. The movie comes out in the U.S. in September of 1975 in Los Angeles, and it did well at that location. Okay. But not elsewhere.
Right.
It was withdrawn from its 8 opening cities due to very small audiences, and its planned New York City opening on Halloween night of 1975 was even canceled.
I mean, that's deeply ironic given where the film will ultimately go.
Yeah, well, exactly. So it was enormously disappointing for everyone. Curry said he took its flop status personally, which he admits was arrogant. In its first year of release, Rocky Horror grossed $1,032,000 in the U.S. and Canada, and $200,000 internationally. So
that is a flop.
Yeah, but reviews were fairly mixed, but there also weren't that many because the film was also largely ignored by critics upon its initial release.
Huh, interesting.
Well, so like, for example, this film, again, it's opening in, fall of 1975. Roger Ebert's review for this movie is August of 1976, after the midnight circuit had already started, and it become like popular.
Okay, interesting.
So, and it does feel like, too, at that time that a lot of critics were only reviewing it at that point because it was like, oh, well, now it's a thing, so we have to review it.
Shit, it got popular. I guess we missed the boat. Circling back.
But during all this, though, so they preview the movie in Santa Barbara, which is a heavy college town, and, well, it's half college and half, like, wealthy, retired, older crowd. So...
Oh, the two audiences for this film.
Yeah, that was the makeup of the audience that came to see this preview screening. And
50% of them have a gay old time, and the other 50% goes... I skipped an early dinner for this.
Well, so they said halfway through the screening, they'd lost half the audience. And I was like, okay, so that half they lost was clearly the wealthy, retired, older crowd. But
yeah.
The only executive at the time to come see the previews was a man named Tim Deegan, who was an executive at 20th Century Fox. And after the screening, Deegan and Adler sat on the curb outside the theater just trying to figure out what to do next. And college-age kids came up to them and said really encouraging, positive things, which let them know they had a film for some audience out there. Right. They just had to find that audience.
Yeah, you've got to cater to the people that are actually responding to it, and it is not older rich people.
Exactly. Now, Deegan had a friend in New York who was an exhibitor, and between the two of them, they decided to run the film at midnight since it couldn't hurt anyone at that point. And
sure.
Fox would go along with it because they were using the recent successes of midnight movies like Pink Flamingos, John Waters' Pink Flamingos, and the original Reefer Madness, saying, hey, like maybe there's something we can do here. But this wasn't a circuit that had been used for quote-unquote, again, legitimate films.
No, I mean, this is how we get to cult status, right? It's like, it's a word-of-mouth thing. We're not spending money on this. It's happening in individual locations because we don't have confidence in this movie anymore. So if other people want to try something, yeah, fuck, whatever. Yeah. Who cares?
Yeah. So the midnight screenings began at the Waverly Theater in New York City on April 1st, 1976. So this is still less than 2 years after the show opened in London. So we're
Still roller coastering, yeah.
Yeah. It also screened in Austin, Texas that same night. And basically, they kept screening them at this theater. And they would call the manager of each theater every Sunday to get an idea of head count. So I guess it was a weekly screening.
Okay.
And they were told by the manager, it's not really that great. It's about 50 people. But here's the thing. It's the same 50 people every single week. And so... Again,
repeat viewership.
This confirmed that there was an audience, so they didn't even advertise. They just relied on word of mouth. And it was a different crowd, not only enjoying the film, but enjoying the other people who were coming to the film. And so
here we go.
Now we have this surprise moderate success where it's like, okay, we're screening it and we are still getting people coming every week. But what about the formation of this cult following? Because I think what I was looking for when I was doing this research was what explains this? What explains?
How do we get there?
And I don't know if there's one answer. And it's kind of, I mean, it is the epitome of the lightning in a bottle metaphor. Like, we just can't recapture something like this, or we can't knowingly or plan to recapture something like this. So,
well, I think that's how word of mouth generally operates, right? I mean, it's organic, it's unplanned. I mean, you can try to plant stuff nowadays. I feel like we have folks who will go on Reddit under, aliases and try to plant, like, hey, have you seen the Rocky Horror Picture Show? Or insert whatever text. But, like, the idea of word of mouth is that it is just kind of spreading of its own goodwill, and the people who get it will get it. It's going to take its time.
Yeah, exactly. So, okay. The development of the cult and rituals around the film were a snowball effect that gradually picked up velocity. And the popular story is that it was somewhere around Labor Day in September of 1976. So again, this is like 5 months after they started the Midnight Circuit. This is around the time the shout-outs began. And one of the stories is that a guy named Lou Farisi Jr. shouted at the screen when Janet was getting out of the car with the newspaper to cover her head. He just shouted at the screen, "Buy an umbrella, you cheap bitch." And...
Jeez.
Oh, if you've never been to one of these, everything about Janet, like, you shout very misogynistic things at Janet.
It's always misogynistic, yeah.
It's very cathartic, honestly, for me, which I probably shouldn't say, but it's very fun to scream some of these things.
Oh my God. And you wonder why people call you a misogynist. It's because you always say stuff like that.
But it's just funny because you do the same thing for the men, too. You do the same thing. You talked about Brad the same way you talk about Janet. But
no, you don't. We call Janet a slut and we call Brad an asshole. Very different things.
That's fine. But either way, people began to contribute their shout-outs, and if it was funny, it stuck. And so then they started sending out like another script or like other subtitles with the prints of the movie with the things that people had been saying over the months that had stuck with the film.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
So, so they do that, and then what followed were costumes, notably for Halloween performances at first, and then it just became like every time it was being shown, people were coming in costumes. It wasn't just Halloween, it was this whole ordeal. And then you have the introduction of props. So, people throw rice during the wedding scene, they're squirting a water gun when it's raining, they're using lighters when there's a light at the Frankenstein place, although those were quickly banned, and now it's just like flashlights, because you can't bring fire into a theater. Mm. From there, we get the introduction of the Shadowcast in 1977, which began in New York City at the 8th Street Playhouse, but then began to spread out. And so, effectually, people were turning cinemas into theaters, like stage theaters, tying back to the initial performance of Rocky Horror being performed in front of a cinema screen.
Right.
Now, once the participation started, it spread to the other theaters in other cities. And once that started to happen, it steamrolled. And this is the 1970s, so we're pre-social media. There is no internet. There's no TikTok. So how did these things go from place to place? Well, basically, someone would go visit New York City, go to a midnight show, and then they would bring it back home to them, wherever that was. And in 1977, you also have the beginning of the fan club, which had a newsletter that was associated with it.
There we go.
And that was how all these fans communicated with each other. And so it was a truly organic process with, ironically, New York City as the epicenter.
Make it sound like a viral contagion, but
it is.
Yeah,
I mean, I want one of those like contagion maps where you just see like the red dot start to like expand throughout the country. Like that's
and
the
this
Rocky
is how
Horror
Rocky
fandom.
Horror infected North America.
Shadowcast would also target small towns that had maybe 20 people that wanted to see it, but that's the thing. So instead of just targeting big cities, they would target the small towns, and then people from the big, like, they would have people driving like many miles away to drive and go see the movie at this tiny small town theater.
Yeah.
And so by the end of 1978, so 3 years after the movie actually opened in theaters, there were 50 prints in circulation, and then it just escalated. So theaters were turning away 150 to 200 people for every performance.
Jesus.
The Tiffany Theater in Los Angeles was showing it at midnight and 2 a.m. and sometimes even 4 a.m.
Wow.
Everyone was amazed at this kind of success. And so I guess that I thought, okay, this clearly took like years and years and years to develop. No. This happened over the course of 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, which is pretty impressive. But it makes me wonder, if it hadn't have taken off, would the film have just completely died and like probably been resurrected as a cult hit of its own on VHS, maybe? But I mean, I truly do think that like it's hard to separate the film from the phenomenon it becomes as a piece of immersive live theater.
Yes, and so that's why, again, I'm saying, like, for me, it's like, okay, what is the best way to watch this movie? And for me, it really is just, like, with no distractions.
Well, I think for the first time, yes. And then you can appreciate it for what it is, and then appreciate what it becomes with an audience who are engaging and interacting with it.
Yeah. Now, critical reception has improved over time. We are looking at an 81% on Rotten Tomatoes, but Letterboxd users have given this a 4.1 out of 5. So this is very, very highly regarded by, again, the people that like it. The box office improved as well. So here's the thing. After making just $1 million in 1975, it fared better in 1976, grossing over $11 million domestically and $2 million internationally for a worldwide total of nearly $15 million. Now,
okay.
It grossed similar amounts for the next 4 years and had reached a domestic gross of almost $60 million by 1980.
Wow. Okay.
By 1986, it had reached $100 million domestically.
Holy.
And $124 million worldwide.
Wow.
As of today, the Rocky Horror Picture Show has a worldwide gross in excess of $170 million. And it's still in limited release this year, 50 years after its premiere. The Rocky Horror Picture Show is the longest running theatrical release in film history. And in 2005, was selected for preservation in the U.S. National Film Registry by the Library of Congress as being culturally, historically, or aesthetically significant.
Take that, you fucking haters.
Yeah, and I should point out, because apparently people don't know this, there is a sequel to the Rocky Horror Picture Show, and that is in 1981's Shock Treatment. This did not have the same kind of life that Rocky Horror had. It was a thing because Susan Sarandon asked for too much money, so she didn't come back. Right. Barry Bostwick couldn't return. I guess it's a scheduling thing. And Tim Curry did not want to reprise the role of Frankenfurter. So basically, Shock Treatment, if you don't know what Shock Treatment is, everyone, it is a direct sequel in the sense that we are following the continued adventures of Brad and Janet, now recast with Cliff DeYoung as Brad and Suspiria's Jessica Harper as Janet. Entirely different vocal register than Susan Sarandon. So we go from a soprano to an alto, by the way. But Jessica Harper is a trained singer, and she is amazing. And I will say that Shock Treatment is a very weird movie. It lacks the manic energy of Rocky Horror, but it is very bizarre, very funny. It's very prescient, like it kind of predicts reality television. And personally, while I do think that Rocky Horror as a whole is a better package because of that like manic energy, I do prefer the soundtrack of Shock Treatment. I think there's better songs in Shock Treatment. But if you're curious, everyone, definitely go give it a watch. They do bring back pretty much all of the cast of this movie, again, save for Sarandon, Bostwick, and Curry, but they're all playing different roles. So the only roles that return are Brad and Janet, as well as Betty and Ralph Hapshat, who are actually prominent roles in Shock Treatment.
Yeah, and folks, if those names don't even sound familiar to you, it's the couple who gets married at the opening of the Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Yeah, but Patricia Quinn and Richard O'Brien and Little Nell, they all come back playing different characters, and it's not on Blu-ray. The DVD is out of print. You can't stream it, but it is bootlegged on YouTube in pretty good quality if you want to go check it out.
I mean, here's the thing. You should always search YouTube just because it might actually be there, ideally under a legitimate format. But sometimes YouTube is the only one who's preserving these films. Like, if not for YouTube, there's a bunch of films that are just otherwise unavailable to people.
Yeah. And I will say, though, if you're on the fence, like, it is worth it just for Jessica Harper's performance. Like, she
Always
gets
and forever.
Because she's clearly the strongest singer in the cast. Like, she gets like half the songs. It also has the guy that played, whose drag persona was Dame Edna.
Oh yeah,
Barry Humphries. He's like a major role in it too.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah. So again, it retains the queerness of it. It's very bizarre. It looks like the whole thing's set in a television studio, so they have one set for the whole thing. It's wild, but again, definitely worth a watch.
Okay.
All right, Joe.
Mm-hmm.
What happens in the Rocky Horror Picture Show?
This episode is sponsored by Wellgo USA. Horror fans, get ready for your next nightmare. From acclaimed filmmaker Yun Song-ho, the visionary director of Train to Busan, comes Colony, a gripping new Korean zombie thriller where a rapidly mutating virus turns a biotech conference into a fight for survival. With no way out and the infected evolving by the minute, every second counts. Experience Colony, only in theaters August 29th. Get your tickets now.
Okay, well, Trace, because it's our 400th episode, I would be remiss if I didn't do something that the listeners love, so would you like to play a game?
Okay. Blast from the past.
I want to play a game. The rules are simple. All you have to do is sit here and talk to me.
Okay, so we're going to keep this short and sweet. Trace, I would like you to tell me, how many musicals have we covered over the last 400 episodes?
Oh, God. Phantom of the Paradise.
There you go. Jessica Harper.
Oh, yeah. Actually, that's part of the reason why she was cast in Shock Treatment, by the way, because of her role in Phantom of the Paradise.
Yeah. Come on, baby.
Oh, my God. I'm not good at being on this. This is a Sunday morning, y'all.
Andrew Lloyd Webber.
Oh, the Phantom of the Opera. Okay, Phantom of the Opera. That's Phantom of the Paradise and Phantom of the Opera.
Yeah. You mentioned another one in your production history.
I don't know, man. wait. Okay.
Smoke and drugs.
Oh, Reefer Madness. Oh my God.
Mm-hmm. How about a slasher that we don't love?
Oh, Stage Fright.
Mm-hmm. How about a television show that's beloved to both of us?
A television show? Oh, Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Mm-hmm. How about a Christmas one?
Christmas? And then the Apocalypse.
There you go. So okay, that's it. 6.
See, I just need those. They're in the back of my head somewhere. I just need that little clue.
Folks, as we said, we're looking at like secretly 800-ish episodes. We forget things all the time.
Absolutely. Clearly, as evidenced by what you just witnessed.
Oh, no. I was like, it's got to be about 2 or 3, right? And then I looked down the list. It was like, oh, there's more than that. Mm-hmm,
yeah. Mm-hmm. Would that there be more horror-themed musicals, but alas.
I mean, hold your breath. We might do another one down the road. Okay, so we open with a extreme close-up of red lips on a black background. These, of course, actually belong to Patricia Quinn, but the voice that sings Double Feature Picture Show is actually Richard O'Brien.
Yes, and so, again, because this is the song why Patricia Quinn wanted to be in the play to sing this song, and even though we don't see her, because basically the original idea was to have clips from the movies they were talking about play over this, but then they realized, oh, that's going to be really expensive. So after filming Wrapped, Sharman asked Patricia Quinn to be the lips for the opening song, and they put her head in a clamp and screwed in flaps on the side so her mouth wouldn't go out of focus.
Jesus, that sounds annoying, honestly.
Yeah, but yeah, basically this song, I mean, yeah, we mentioned the things like The Day of the Triffids and Forbidden Planet. All this song is a tribute to and send-up of various sci-fi B-movies and serials, which are also parodied in the show itself, but it doesn't really... This is a more, like, thematic introduction to the musical than it is, like, really plot-related.
Yeah, if anything, it gives you a sense of the tone or the things that we're going to be drawing from. But again, if you don't get any of that, as I didn't, then it's just kind of a fun, very visually unique way to open a movie.
Yeah, this is not my favorite song in the musical, I should just say. I don't love this song.
I'm interested to hear what is your favorite song.
I don't know if I have a favorite, but I have songs that I like. And actually, one of them is next, so we'll see.
Okay. So we should note that while this song is playing, we do kind of pause the lips a little bit so that we can get the credits playing as well. And I will say, I love the descriptors for different characters. So we get, Rocky, a creation, or, you know, the criminologist, an expert, and that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I love that Janet is called a heroine and Brad is called a hero.
Oh, yeah.
Short movie. All right, so the film opens on the Episcopalian marriage of Ralph, who is Jeremy Newson, as well as Betty, who is Hilary LeBeau. And this marriage is getting out, so we're celebrating, we're taking pictures at 5 minutes to noon.
Yes, and did you notice Tim Curry is the priest in this ceremony?
I did, yes. And you can also see both Riff Raff and Magenta, albeit they are in American Gothic garb.
Yeah, that's there to like juxtapose how boring Brad and Janet are, right?
I think so. And it's also, I'm going to suggest, a commentary on marriage, because we get Ralph and Betty leaving the wedding ceremony in this car that says, wait till tonight, she got hers, now he'll get his. And then as Brad and Janet begin to sing their first song, which is Damn It, Janet, we actually have a coffin come through the church as they're singing about marriage and how much they love each other, as if to suggest marriage equals death.
Actually, see previous episode just from a month or two ago on Crimes of Passion, which has a similar music video style sequence involving a coffin and marriage.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't tell this was meant to be a joke or not, but I do love Susan Sarandon's delivery of, an hour ago she was plain old Betty Monroe, and now she's Mrs. Ralph Hapshat. Swoon. Yep. Hapshat's like a bad name, right?
Well, but also you're literally talking about marriage as if it's kind of indentured servitude or a loss of identity. Just, okay, well, Betty doesn't exist anymore. Now she's just the Mrs. to Ralph Hapshat's.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I do think that this movie is exceptionally counterculture, and its politics are very much about, you don't need to be straight. You don't need to get married. You should actually be out there doing what makes you feel good, which is why, in addition to all the campiness and, you know, the fluid sexuality, I think that's why it appeals so much to queer people.
Got it. Well, I do love Damn It, Janet, because this is your typical, like, you know, musical romance duet song that you wouldn't always see in the first act of a musical. But this scene, so it's kind of homaging the opening scene of Night of the Living Dead from 1968.
Right.
And the costumes for Brad and Janet are nearly identical to those of the two main characters played by Barbra Streisand and Ryan O'Neal in the 1972 film What's Up, Doc?
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm. And then the music for the song exaggerates the rock and roll tendency to repeat simple chord progressions.
Right. I will say, repetition is one of the favorite things that I have about this film. We get a lot of comedic mileage out of it. Mm-hmm. But, you know, as Barry Bostwick and Susan Sarandon are doing, they're like, oh my God, we're so in love. And it's, oh, damn it, Janet. And she's like, oh, Brad. Like, you could do a drinking game of how many times she says the word Brad in this movie.
Oh, yeah.
But I love that we just get the actual flat repetition from Magenta and Riff Raff. So they're like, oh, Brad.
Yeah.
Oh, Janet.
just totally like no affectation. And again, like in terms of like the technical like aspects, like when they go into the church, you could see this as poor sound design because like there's an echo in there. I mean, like a quote unquote professional movie, a legitimate movie would have like fixed that. But this doesn't because they're not trying to do that.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to bring in a couple of different articles from that book that I mentioned, Absolute Pleasure, which is Queer Perspectives on Rocky Horror, and it's edited by Margot Atwell. I'll confess this wasn't exactly the reference that I was looking for the most part. I was hoping it was going to interrogate the film a lot more, and it's actually more about the shadow cast and the immersive aspects of the film and like what it meant to particularly queer people, many of them from small towns, many of them who were either closeted or they didn't recognize that they were trans. Like the movie really unlocks things in them, but it is more about that experience as opposed to the film in question. But there were a couple of pieces that I pulled. So one of them is by Holly Joy Wertman, and their piece is on the queer morality of Rocky Horror. So we didn't mention it, but this is set in Denton. You mentioned that was one of the original titles.
The wild thing is, though, so I was just thinking, it's Denton, Texas, like, because there is a Denton, Texas. It's about an hour north of Dallas, and it is the fictional town of Denton in the movie, but weirdly enough, when they were filming Shock Treatment, they wanted to film it in Denton, Texas, but they didn't.
Oh, okay. Interesting. So one of the things that I always found fascinating is this is a British production with primarily British cast, and yet we set this in America. So Joy Wortman writes, by choosing to set the film in America, they highlight the stark contrast between the sexual liberation of the 1970s and the restrictive puritanical image that America portrayed to the world. So the moral decline of our protagonist subverts various elements of puritanical hangups, including same-sex attraction, infidelity, premarital relations, gender nonconformity, and unrestrained feminine desire. So in a way, we are satirizing the prudishness of Americans by situating the film in America.
Oh, and I think it's embodied more so in Janet than it even is in Brad. But I think, like, out of all the character arcs in this movie, which, I mean, admittedly, like, there aren't a ton of arcs in this movie.
Sure.
But I do love Janet. It's like, Janet, yeah, you can see it as, her morals are declining or whatever. But you can also see it as, hey, she's being sexually liberated. Like, I love Janet's journey in this movie, even though it does involve infidelity.
Right, yes. And one of the interesting things about a lot of the pieces in Absolute Pleasure is that there were several contributors who talked about feeling uncomfortable with the misogyny that ends up getting involved with Janet's character. It's part of the reason why I wanted to bring it up earlier.
Yeah.
And initially when I read it, I kind of rebuffed it. And I said, like, oh, God, people are just being so sensitive. Like, we give it to Brad as much as we give it to Janet. And then I'd pause, took the step back and said... I don't know, it keeps coming up in these essays. And, one of them talks about going to a Shadowcast screening and having men specifically of a particular older age just really getting into it, being like, whore, slut, blah, 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 like just really emphasizing the slurs and how uncomfortable that makes the immersive experience. And it made me kind of pause and be like, if the movie is actually about Janet's sexual liberation, then why are we so comfortable shaming her for it?
I guess, okay, I'm not even pushing back on you for this, but I guess I'm thinking, like, in terms of the queer community, and I guess maybe more specifically the gay male community who use misogynistic words like bitch, like cunt, like whore.
Yeah.
To call each other, not just women that, but to call each other that. Like, I don't know. Is there ever an overlap with, these are actual terms of endearment?
I don't know. It's hard to parse through. From what I could gather, many of the essays were from female identifying contributors. So I think they were specifically honing in on, like, I feel as if I'm being attacked by this. And they didn't go and question the people. It was more about, like, how can we keep this joyful celebration of the film, but also sexual liberties and that kind of stuff without making other people who might be in attendance feel uncomfortable. So it's more something to consider if you yourself, listeners, find yourself attending a Shadowcast. I guess pay close attention. Like, one of the contributors actively said, it's interactive and people are yelling at the screen, but you could also be like, hey, let's keep this civil, or like, maybe let's find an alternative kind of thing.
I haven't been to one of these. I mean, again, it's probably at least a decade because I was like, I'm good. I had my fill.
You've done it.
That's something I'm interested in seeing, though, is have these changed at all in the past 10 years in terms of, like, what we are shouting out because of what is deemed appropriate or inappropriate nowadays.
Absolutely. Yeah. Because I went to one, but it would have been back in college. So for me, I'm looking at probably
20 years
2
ago.
decades. So, yeah, I would be curious to see, because I think part of this is that it does continually get updated, and I'm sure some of it is evergreen. We're always going to throw the rice, we're always going to do the toast and spray the water and that kind of stuff. But yeah, have some of the callbacks evolve to change the contemporary culture.
I'm not using this as defense. But I'm just more like, okay, but is that kind of then, like, because to me, like, part of the appeal of Rocky Horror is how transgressive it is. But then if we're changing that, are we then, like, if we're saying, that's not PC, that's not appropriate, that's not fair, is that interfering with the transgressive nature of maybe not the show itself, but the viewing experience of the show, of these shadow casts, of these kinds of performances. But then I guess me saying that, am I saying, well, then am I trying to use transgressive nature to defend misogyny? I don't know.
I think it's a bit of a slippery slope. I would say instead of changing, we maybe look at this as an evolution. Like, the reception of the film changes as we ourselves move forward, as we age. Like you yourself said, you have a different relationship to the film now than you did when you first watched it, because you are older, you've come to experience it in different ways, but also you appreciate it as a viewer. So I think we can acknowledge it can change or evolve without necessarily losing something or gaining something. I think it's more just something to take note of.
Interesting. Listeners, I'm genuinely curious. Like, what are your thoughts on that?
Right. Because I have a feeling you're going to get upset when I bring up something else later, is why I'm cueing you.
I probably will. Well, again, I like boundary pushing things, but I guess, like, I'm stuck in between this rock and a hard place where it's like, well, what if the boundary pushing thing I'm gunning for is misogynistic language?
You're not actually in favor of that.
Yeah, exactly.
Also, stuck between a rocky and a hard place? Just saying. Okay, so we're introduced to the criminologist, who was played by Charles Gray, who I will always refer to as Blofeld. But we should note that...
Wait, was he Blofeld?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that. I'm so used to either Telly Savalas or Donald Pleasance's Blofeld. So he's the other one, basically.
Yeah. We should note that Vincent Price was apparently originally offered this role. I don't know why he turned it down, but some of the things I'm going to say, I'm pulling from the trivia subtitle track on the 50th edition of the film.
Okay. Also, you are right. He does play Blofeld in Diamonds Are Forever.
There we go. Okay. So basically, we're introduced to the criminologist as this is very breaking the fourth wall and inviting the audience in, right? Because he speaks to the camera as if he is lecturing or telling us a story, but he has paused the story on a picture of the wedding. So he's highlighting, hey, there's Frankenfurter. Hey, there's Riff Raff. And he explains he's going to take us on a strange journey, which is where the documentary gets its title. And we're going to follow Brad and Janet as they go to visit Brad's mentor, Dr. Everett Scott, on a night out they were going to remember for a very long time.
Dr. Scott!
One of my favorite jokes in the film.
Ever since my first viewing, that sequence of Brad, Janet, Dr. Always my favorite joke in the movie. Always.
And it's the rule of three.
Yeah, comedy. It is.
Okay, so in case you forgot that this is a film from 1975, we hear Nixon's resignation on the radio trays.
I know, and I walked in this being like, okay, well, if we're parodying and emulating movies of the 40s and 50s, this is clearly set in that time period as well, and that's not the case. This tells us this is set in the 70s when the film was made.
Yeah. We're calling back to those films, but this is a quote-unquote contemporary film.
Yeah.
So Brad and Janet are driving through the woods, and they do drive by a number of different motorcycles. I've mentioned the word counterculture several times. In the 70s, we get a bunch of different stuff, but like Easy Rider is in the cultural consciousness, and motorcycles are still equivalent or even like synonymous with rebellion. They're not adhering to traditional societal structures. They're deviant, dangerous, that kind of stuff. Okay, so Brad and Janet reach a dead end, and then the tire blows, which the criminologist already told us was going to happen. So the pair decide to get out and walk through the rain to a dark castle a few miles back, which the movie is obviously called a horror picture show, but like it's meant to be Rocky is the horror because he's the Frankenstein creature. But like this movie is playing with tropes of horror films.
Oh, absolutely. I also just love Brad's cavalier line delivery of, didn't we pass a castle back down the road a few miles? It's it's the equivalent if you've ever seen the musical Into the Woods, Stephen Sondheim, where in the opening number, the baker's like, it's the witch from next door. Like it's just a casual thing that everyone just knows.
We just accept it.
Thing. Yeah, we accept it.
Yeah. So we get a swipe transition. It's not even like a wipe. It's a full-on swipe to the enter at your own risk sign on the gate in front of this castle. And this is when Janet begins to sing Over at the Frankenstein Place as motorcycles pull up.
Yeah, not my favorite song either.
It's fine. If anything, this feels almost Disney-esque to me. Like, oh, we're strangers in a strange land, and we pulled up at somewhere that's going to be a little bit dangerous.
Yeah, I think the humor mostly just comes from the fact that they just call it the Frankenstein place. Like, they're like, yep, that's the Frankenstein place. Let's go.
Everybody knows. Everybody knows. So the criminologist cuts in briefly to question if the pair have actually found the help that they need, and then we're at the door, and it's being opened by Quasimodo-esque butler Riffraff, who notes that Janet is wet.
Yes, it's raining.
Oh, but is he just referring to the rain?
I will say, Susan Sarandon in her interview, she said that she played, played Janet as your kind of wide ingenue, but who's secretly a bitch inside.
Okay. I would have said slut. But... So they come inside to the sounds of a party. Maid Magenta is actively riding the banister, announcing that they're all lucky. I'm lucky. You're lucky. We're all lucky.
And I love that Brad's like, it's probably just some hunting lodge for rich weirdos.
I mean, you might not be incorrect with that statement. Yeah.
Probably not. Yeah.
So at 20 minutes, we go into the time warp. And I think for a lot of folks, this is where the movie actively kicks into gear. This is when the Rocky Horror Picture Show becomes what it is.
Yeah, I feel like if you haven't seen Rocky Horror, you know the time warp.
Oh, sure. I went to high school dances where they played the song and everybody did the fucking dance.
Oh, yeah. Like, this plays on the radio. Like, this is the song that plays on the radio. Wildly enough, so they didn't make a ton of changes from the stage production to the film, but one change they did make was changing the order of the songs. In the stage show, originally Sweet Transvestite came first, and then Frankenfurter participates in Time Warp.
Oh, interesting.
They switched that for the movie because they wanted to delay Frankenfurter's entrance by 5 minutes, which adds to the tension of the film.
I agree. I actually think it's a smarter choice.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, it gives the servants then more of a focus in this sequence because after Frankenfurter comes in, it's the Frankenfurter show.
It truly is. Yeah, Tim Curry just eats this movie whole with his enormous mouth.
Yeah, but because again, this is a parody of those choreographed dance songs, and I the moves are so like it's a jump to the left, a step to the right, bring your knees in, and do the pelvic thrust, and that's it. It's just 4 steps.
Yeah, but Tracy drives them insane. Yeah, so I do love also that we get to see all of these. Folks, we're going to use some outdated language. Bear with us. So all of these transsexuals from Transylvania do join in on this, as well as the servants, as you said, but also the criminologist, which I kind of fucking love.
Oh, I do too. I mean, the only thing I don't like is because he does it's just a jump to the left. And it's like, again, the sound design changes where it's like someone didn't capture room tone or something when we were switching between these scenes, but it's fine. But it is fun. And again, I do like the Time Warp song. I think it's a fun song.
Yeah, it's very fun. And also fun is Janet's reaction to this. So Barry Bostwick just kind of looks amused and uncertain, but Susan Sarandon's Janet actively faints no less than 3 times during this song.
Again, I really like Susan Sarandon's performance in this movie. And her eyes, they're big.
She is a literal wide-eyed innocent. Okay, so during the song, Brad and Janet try to covertly sneak out without drawing attention to themselves as everyone eventually collapses onto the floor, but they don't notice that behind them, the elevator has been descending, so we get to watch as glitter stilettos tap out the arrival of Dr. Frankenfurter as he arrives to sing Sweet Transvestite.
Yes, not my favorite. To me,
oh my god,
no, hold on. The performance makes this song for me. Like Tim Curry's performance makes this song. This isn't a song I would just normally listen to like on my own.
Interesting. We should note that in the trivia track, they say that the soundtrack for this has sold more than 1 million copies.
That's not surprising to me. And so again, this is my musical sensibilities because like there's not really a ton of like a melody you can like kind of hum to in this. And so like the lyrics that Curry is singing isn't necessarily like lined up with the tune that the orchestra is playing. That's hard for me when I listen to it because I'm like, wait, like I can't like latch onto this somehow. It's harder for me to hear. And so it's not me saying Sweet Transvestite's a bad song. It's this isn't the type of music that I really gravitate towards.
Trace is saying he can't do this at karaoke very well, so he doesn't like it as much.
Actually, no, that's That's very true. Rewatching this, I was okay, what could I do at karaoke? And yeah, damn it,
all the
Janet.
Janet songs.
All the Janet, I can definitely do those. I mean, I have to change the register, obviously, because I am not a soprano. But, like, I couldn't imagine hearing, the karaoke track for this and looking at the lyrics and figuring out, even though, yes, in karaoke, the words highlight for you. But, like, I wouldn't be able to figure that out. And so, yeah, Curry's performance, though, wonderful. I mean, there's already an energy in the movie, but, like, when he steps into frame, the movie changes. It morphs. It becomes something else entirely. And it is an infectious performance. Like, he wraps you into this movie.
Absolutely. And you're right. It doesn't hurt that he is bringing us, the audience, into this because he is looking at the camera.
So much.
There's a point where he throws water onto the lens.
Yes. Yeah. He's like, fuck y'all.
We should note that O'Brien describes Frank as Ivan the Terrible meets Cruella de Vil.
Do you feel bad for Frankenfurter by the end of this movie?
I do, and I feel a certain level of empathy for him, even though I recognize that he has kind of actively brought this on himself. I do wish that the heel turn with Riff Raff and Magenta was explored in a little bit more detail. Mm-hmm. We see a couple of eye rolls from Magenta, and they sort of look nonplussed, like, oh god, this guy and his dumbass shtick again. But I never feel fully satisfied when Riff Raff and Magenta come in and are just like, oh, we're taking over. You failed your mission. We're going to kill you.
Yeah, I agree. We'll talk about it because I have similar issues with the climax of this movie.
Okay, so I mentioned some outdated terminology, and I just wanted to recognize, so transvestite gets tossed around a lot in this film, and in case you've forgotten, that is a person who wears clothes designed for the opposite sex, which is also often equated with cross-dressing. Now, this is considered an outdated term, not only because it suggests that there's a strict binary between, like,
male and female
you have
clothes.
to dress for one or the other, as if there is only two sexes to dress for, but what's interesting to me is how many different responses I saw to Frankenfurter specifically as a character, because some people consider this a drag performance. It's very clearly a man wearing women's clothes. Some people read this as extremely queer, even though cross-dressing or transvestitism is not necessarily a queer thing. A lot of straight men actually do it. And then some people consider Frankenfurter trans or see a trans reading in the character in the kind of like genderqueer gender fuckery of it all.
Yeah, I think there can be a trans but do I think that Frankenfurter identifies as female? Well, here's the thing though. Could you even apply a gender period to Frankenfurter given that he's an alien? Exactly. And
I mean, you keep gendering them with a he. So I think the film actively courts a male reading of the gender, but yeah, because it's an alien, technically we should probably just say they or them.
Well, so O'Brien refers to Frankenfurter as he, and that's the only reason I'm using those. But again, like I think this is kind of a you do you, like whatever you read Frankenfurter as. But O'Brien always said that Frankenfurter's introduction would wow audiences. Like the moment Curry removed the cape and revealed the fishnets and heels.
Oh yeah.
He would be in the audience for half of his stage time. And he says O'Brien thinks that audience members were surprised. They were attracted to, quote unquote, this creature. He knows what he desires and he expresses that freely. We are taught the opposite in our society and taught to be afraid of our libido. And Frankenfurter is the antithesis of that. Cross-dressing in this film gives you power.
Okay. I can totally see it. I mean, there's something not just about the performance that Tim Curry is delivering, but the way that the characters react to Frankenfurter. Like, simply seeing him, I'm doing it now as well. You know what? We're just going to make an agreement. We're going to refer to Frankenfurter as he.
Yeah.
Seeing him alone is enough to make Janet faint.
Oh, like as soon as he turns around in the elevator, she's like, oh!
And it's very funny, right? You know, like it's played for comedy, but the whole movie, if you want to be generous and say there's not a lot of arcs, but the main, most obvious one is that simply by exposure over the course of one evening, Brad and Janet go from virginal bores to people who are actively interested in exploring their sexuality and living freer, more interesting lives.
Well, and while I did say earlier that Janet's arc is my favorite, I think that Brad's arc is the most surprising because I think the fact that Brad does have sex with Frankenfurter is a really daring moment for cinema in 1975.
Yes and no. And the reason I say that is because I think there's actually more, I'm going to say, bisexuality represented in men of this era. So when we were talking about Saltburn, I mentioned that other film, which is very, very similar, whose name I've now, of course, forgotten, but like it's got Basil Exposition doing bisexuality. And of course, he had already done it in Cabaret. Yeah. So it's not completely out of the realm of possible. But yeah, I mean, every time I watch Rocky Horror, it seems so unlikely that Brad would be willing to engage in this. Like, Janet, you're just like, ugh, she's screwed on too tight. Somebody's got to help her loosen up.
Right.
Brad doesn't even seem to have, like, sometimes he actually reads asexual to me. Like, there's a moment before he starts singing Damn It, Janet, where he looks almost upset that he's going to have to propose to her. Like, I don't want to do this, but she just caught the fucking bouquet.
We should point out, too, that Barry Bostwick is very, very cute in this movie.
Very dreamy, yeah. Before we move on, I wanted to bring in SC Real. That's Real with an E at the end. They have an interesting piece that talks about the vocal affectations and what it means for masculinity by comparing Brad to Frankenfurter. So Real says, whereas Brad was positioned as the wholesome boy next door of soft rock love songs. So that's kind of how Brad's register rings in the first part of the film.
Right.
Frank falls within the musical realm of cock rock or glam rock of the 1970s and even draws upon the androgyny within these genres as an affirmation of Frank's masculinity. But then by the time we get to the end, this will have changed, and Brad's vocal registry will have changed to become more masculine, and Frankenfurter will have become more feminine.
Okay. Oh, I like that. I didn't even pay attention. Now I have to rewatch this movie again. I'm glad you mentioned the glam rock of it all, because yeah, actually, just to bring back Shock Treatment one more time. So where Rocky Horror is more glam rock, Shock Treatment is more new wave.
Right. Okay. What is new wave?
I don't know. I was just saying that because that's what it is.
Okay. I mean, definitely musical, which is not our forte. So, folks, if you want to hit us up with a definition or some other examples that maybe you think Trace might appreciate now that he's a fan of Shock Treatment.
Here, it's fine. It's the term new wave was initially synonymous with punk rock, but soon branched off into its own distinct style by the 80s. A lighter and more melodic broadening of punk culture. That's why I like it. It's a more melodic punk rock. Oh my God.
I don't like punk, but I do like this.
But that's the thing. So like, the catchiness of the songs in Shock Treatment, like that's what I latch onto, I think. That's what it is.
Okay.
Because it incorporates a melody into rock songs that in any other scenario wouldn't normally have that melody.
Right. And you like a melody.
I love a melody. Love a melody.
Okay. So one of the things that I like about the end of Sweet Transvestite is, once again, this repetition aspect. So we have Dr. Frankenfurter lounging sexily on this throne, and he's flanked by Magenta and Columbia, who, as we mentioned, is played by Little Nell, and he's doing things like, why don't you stay for the night? And they all go, night.
Oh, the tongue movement, bite.
Yeah, bite. Like, I cannot overemphasize how enormously lush and plump Tim Curry's lips look in this. Like, it's not just the lipstick, but it feels like the camera is drawn to his mouth.
But the lipstick is always like perfect in this movie. And when it sparkles or when it shines, it's wonderful. Yeah, I mean, everything about that's why I was always surprised that like the disembodied lips kind of became like the poster for this movie, which granted, the reason it's the lips is because this came out in 1975, a few months after Jaws, and the poster would be the lips, and it said a different set of Jaws. So
cute. Very cute.
Yeah, but I'm just like, well, Frankenfurter's the one you should be advertising in this movie, but
I'll confess, I always thought that those lips did belong to him. It wasn't until way later that I realized they belonged to Patricia O'Quinn.
Well, that's because Frankenfurter doesn't wear red lipstick. He wears like black and purple lipstick.
Like a bruise, yeah. Okay, so Frankenfurter bids them to come up to the lab, and he ascends on the elevator, and then he leaves the pair of virgins to be undressed down to their underwear as the clock chimes midnight.
That's the lyric. I was always like, what does that mean? Because the end of the Sweet Transvestite song, He says, I see you shiver with anticipation, but maybe the rain isn't really to blame, so I'll remove the cause, but not the symptom. And I was like, what the fuck does that mean? He's removing the cause of their shivering, which is the wet clothes, but not the symptom, meaning they're still going to be shivering throughout the night because of how sexual things are going to get.
The libido. Mm-hmm. He sees it. He sees the potential within them.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I mentioned midnight, and I hope everybody caught the fact that the wedding took place at noon. So we are doing polar opposites. Firmly midday, firmly midnight.
It's a binary, I guess.
Shut up. So I'm going to bring in Heather O. Petrocelli, who was also our guest on Cat People, the original, 1942. So Heather has written a piece in this Absolute Pleasure compendium called Midnight Picture Show, and in it we talk about midnight. So, since queer people have often needed to exist under the radar to preserve individual and community safety, the impermanent, transitory nature of live shows is valuable because the performances and the spaces they create are letting, and the lack of evidence helps queer people avoid persecution and violence for expressing or playing with gender fuckery, bodily autonomy, and sexual freedom. In other words, midnight Rocky Horror screenings, because of course that's where the film also gets all of its fame and notoriety. It's not just a cult film because it plays all the time. It always ends up playing at midnight. So Rocky Horror screenings create space for queer people to participate and express ourselves, transforming a movie-going experience into an ephemeral, live, queer cultural event. So the film embodies this element by taking place at midnight in the world of the film, and then queer people gather around at midnight to turn it into this immersive cultural event.
Yeah, and that's something I didn't really touch on in my production when I'm talking about the genesis of this cult. But when the guy was like, oh yeah, it's 50 people, but it's the same 50 people coming every week, we weren't doing surveys on, are you straight, gay, queer, whatever. But I think it's fair to say that a good chunk of the people that helped develop this cult were queer people, because for all the reasons you just said, the safe space that people found in queer clubs and queer bars, Rocky Horror midnight shows became one of those safe spaces for people like this.
Absolutely. And, queer people do have a special relationship to movies, to horror movies specifically, as Heather elaborates on in her book, but then also queer villains like Frankenfurter. If we want to read him as a villain, which, I think we can debate, but he's also doing some pretty awful shit. He is a cannibal.
He's a mad scientist. In any other horror film that wasn't a campy musical comedy, he would be seen as the villain. So, yes, I think that's fair to say.
But there is something so aspirational about his no fucks given approach to life. Even though, he's often doing some pretty fucking bad shit, you're just like, look at him out there dressing how he wants, fucking who he wants, getting people around him to embody his values and his virtues and that kind of stuff, but also pressing them forward in a transgressive kind of way. Okay, so in the elevator up to the lab, Riff Raff explains that he and Magenta are Frank's servants. I do like the line, the master will probably never get married. And I was just like, in 1975, queer people couldn't get married, so
he's an alien. He can't marry a human. There's no interspecies relationship.
Boring. That is such a boring read.
I know.
All right, let's talk about this lab, because everything up to this point has been... It's an old dark house, it's a mansion, it's a creaky Frankenstein kind of place with a ballroom. But then we get up to this lab and the set design is completely different.
Pink.
Yeah. It's so good. It's adorned with Adonis statues, and we've got Frankenfurter still technically wearing the garters, the fishnet, the heels, and all that kind of stuff, but we have now covered it with a green smock. But we've got housewife pearls around the neck, and I did want to note that there is a red triangle on this smock, and that is, of course, the triangle is the symbol for queer, and it was weaponized against the community, specifically in the concentration camps of World War II.
Oh, did not know that, so thank you for that nugget of information.
It's usually pink there, not red, but this seems to be a very, very deliberate.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So, Frankenfurter hands them oversized shirts to, protect their modesty because they look uncomfortable. And this is where Brad tries to forcefully assert his dominance, fooling no one. And Janet is just dissolving into giggles.
Okay, because Frankenfurter is very much turned on by Brad's all of a sudden, like, masculinity that he's putting on display. And
oh, Brad.
You must be awfully proud of him, Janet. And she's like, well, yes, I am.
You're just like, oh my God, these two are putty in Frankenfurter's hands.
Well, but then, like, as soon as Brad gets scared, as soon as Janet gets scared, she'll be like, oh, Brad, it's all right, Janet.
Yeah. Stand up a little straighter, assert your masculinity a little bit more.
Because everyone's operating at 11 in this movie. There aren't really levels to a lot of these performances, but I love that so much. I think maybe because Brad and Janet they get the most levels because they increase in.
I think they become more interesting. Like here, they almost seem like caricatures. They're very performative heteronormativity. And it's not that it's boring, but it's like, oh, we've seen these characters a million times before. They're almost stock. And they're not the most interesting ones amidst all of these weirdos in the castle. But then they become more interesting the longer they spend around the weirdos. They become the weirdos themselves.
Yeah, basically, we all have a little freak inside of us. We just need a bunch of queer people around us to pull it out.
Exactly. Sometimes forcefully, sometimes without consent. We'll get there.
Okay.
So, Frankenfurter introduces the unconventional conventionalists. This is what we call the Transylvanians who have gathered on the second level kind of stairs. I don't know. This is an interesting layout. There's an enormous ramp that goes from the top to the bottom. And the Transylvanians, they're not really characters. They're just coded as unusual. They're made up very loudly. None of them look male or female, so we're very much fucking with gender here.
And their energy goes through levels, though, because sometimes they're, like, really into the song, but then other times they're just kind of like,
like most queer people at a show, it's like, play the thing I want to hear.
Well, and that's something that, again, even Roger Ebert's 2.5 out of 4 review for this movie specifically points out how ineffective the chorus are, the Transylvanians, because they don't match their performance from song to song. And so, again, that's that aspect that Sharman was talking about, where he's like, again, there are things, that's intentional. We intentionally had them be like that, but because in normal movies, it's like, oh, that's actually a bad thing.
Right.
That's where you're playing with the levels of what quality, what is good, what is bad. Rocky Horror keeps challenging those assertions.
Yeah. In some ways, it asks the audience to make up their own mind, as opposed to reading registers or cues from the screen. Like, oh, I don't know what to make of the Transylvanians because I would have thought they'd be into this song and they're not for some reason. Yeah. How do I feel about it personally?
And again, if it's intentional, does that affect the quality of the film? If they're trying to, that's why it's so hard. Because I can't distinguish, because as I said at the top of the episode, there are movies that are trying to be bad that I just find so obnoxious in their attempts to be bad.
Tryhards.
Yes, exactly. But I can't verbalize or vocalize like what the difference is. But I don't get that like pompous attitude from this movie.
This feels effortless to me. Like this is just the movie that they wanted to make. I don't think that they set out to become a cult hit or a midnight film, even though it's kind of in the title or it's in that first song. It feels like we just wanted to make this weird subversive piece of art. Whereas I think especially contemporary films where it's low budget and we're just trying to throw shit at the screen or be provocative, it's because we're desperately hoping to get picked up in that cult register in the hope that, oh, maybe this will become something.
And I think this is the lesson we have learned in the past 6 decades, where it's like, you can't engineer a cult film. You cannot do that. You can make a movie that's so bad it's good, I guess, but you can't make a cult happen,
Yeah, it's not part of the marketing scheme for a film.
It just time does it. That's
often. It. Yeah. Okay, so Frankenfurter declares that he has essentially uncovered the secret to life itself, so very much a Frankenstein story. This is celebrated with applause and noisemakers. We get a literal drum roll as the creature is revealed, and, it's kind of a mummy in a submerged tank of water, and we do a bunch of lights flashing, wheels are getting cranked, dials are getting twisted, smoke is hissing. We get the, very fake old-timey music or like sound effect, like wow, wow, wow.
Yeah.
And then Rocky, who was played by Peter Hinwood, is alive and singing The Sword of Damocles, though we should note the singing voice actually belongs to Trevor White.
Fun fact, Trevor White is a British-Australian singer best known in Australia for playing Jesus in the original Australian stage production of Jesus Christ Superstar in the 1970s.
Okay. I like the voice. I do feel that it is incongruous with Hinwood. It doesn't look like it fits. And I unfortunately do think that for the most part, Hinwood is the weak link in this production for me. It's partially just because Rocky is an object to be observed as opposed to a character in his own right. Mm-hmm. He gets a couple of funny moments, but overall, apart from looking at this body, I don't love Rocky.
Oh, but I think that's intentional, though. I mean, yeah, he's just the body here.
It's the eye candy.
There's no performance here. He just stares.
Yeah, I almost would have rather... I don't know. I think I just need something different because this character really recedes into the background because everybody else is being so extra.
Yeah, but yeah, we get this Sword of Damocles song, which again, it's a big heavy metaphor. Like if you don't know the Sword of Damocles, it's like this guy, I think it's Damocles actually. Maybe he's the king. I don't know. One guy was like, "Hey king, you've got this great life. It's really awesome. You're rich and powerful." And he's like, "Well, actually, here, why don't you sit at my throne for a minute? You can get the power, but I'm going to hang this giant sharp ass sword over your head that's hanging by a literal thread." And the metaphor is, hey, with great power comes a lot of stress and threat of death. And so
right. It could all end at a moment's notice and you don't know when.
Exactly. And so Rocky, being a literal like child mind in this muscular body, is kind of using that as the metaphor for his experience of the first moments of his life.
Yeah. I don't love this song.
Yeah, it's fine.
But I do love watching Tim Curry as Frankenfurter flailing about the room, chasing him amongst the Transylvanians. I think that Tim Curry's performance is very, very comedic in this moment.
Yeah, I think, and that's the thing, right? I guess maybe more to your point, this is Rocky's song, and our eyes are transfixed on Frankenfurter still, not Rocky, while he's singing the song.
Yeah. Because typically in a Frankenstein narrative, that becomes the focal point, right? And in some ways, our objectification of Rocky, like, seriously, folks, this body and the gold shiny lame briefs are, I mean, if I had less body dysmorphia, I would love to get into shape so I could wear this as a Halloween costume or go to a shadow cast or something like that. I think it's very visually evocative, but in terms of characterization, like Rocky does not become a Frankenstein creature or monster in the way that we are used to with nearly every other iteration of the story.
And look, and dubbing someone with their singing voice, like, it's not new. Like we were doing this all throughout the 40s, 50s, 60s, whatever. Yeah. But I think when you know it's not that person singing, at least for me, it does. I mean, look, My Fair Lady is one of my favorite movie musicals of all time, but that movie famously dubs over Audrey Hepburn's singing. Like, that is not her singing in that movie, which is why people believe she wasn't nominated for an Oscar when everyone else was. And Audrey Hepburn's great in that movie, but it's a thing where it's like, oh, wow, that is not her voice coming out of her. And it's very distracting.
Yes. Yeah. And maybe that's part of what I'm struggling with is I don't find the character as memorable as I maybe want him to be, but then also every time. And it's not like Rocky does a ton of singing. Like, this is really his only number by himself. He's in the chorus and other numbers. But particularly in this moment, I'm like, it's your big entrance and I'm so distracted.
Yeah. Yeah.
By that dick? No. Okay. So we go almost straight from here into Frankenfurter's song where he's praising Rocky's physique. This is I Can Make You a Man. My favorite visual moment of this is Frankenfurter singing part of the song while rocking, which is a simulation of sex on the pommel horse.
Pommel horse. Thank you. I wrote in my notes, it was like this red gym thing.
Yes, that would be it.
I do love because Columbia's like, he's okay about Rocky. And then Janet, because Frankenfurter was like flashing him around, being like, hey, like, what do you think of this guy? And I love Janet's like, oh, I don't like a man with too many muscles. And Frankenfurter is so offended by this. He's like, I didn't make him for you.
Like, Janet, it's not about you. You're not actually the heroine of this story, even though you are literally billed as such in the opening credits.
But either way, this is Frankenfurter's God Complex song, because it's literally called I Can Make You in just 7 days, I can make you a man. So yeah, I think this is a fun song. Again, I think it's better when it's paired with the visuals as opposed to just listening to it. But yeah, it's fun.
Yeah. Okay, so The deep freeze alarm goes off, and this is our introduction to frozen biker Eddie, who is played by Meatloaf. And of course, as you alluded to, it's a one and done deal. So everybody enjoy hot patootie, because this dyke-coated / butch, this is me pulling from other people's essays, folks. A lot of people read Eddie almost as like an aspirational lesbian figure, just because so Butch, the partnership with Columbia is very like, oh, okay, there's like Femme and then there's Butch. And I also just love Meatloaf's song. Like, I think Hot Patootie is a very, very fun song as well.
And fun fact, so this is actually a pre-fame Meatloaf. Like, his big break would come with Bat Out of Hell, his album from 1977, which would, of course, become like a trilogy of albums. But he was actually, funnily enough, best known for being in the Los Angeles production of Hair in 1972.
It's a full circle moment in so many ways, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely wild. But yeah, so I mean, yeah, I don't know if like regular audiences would have been familiar with Meatloaf at this point in time.
Right, yeah. I mean, this is one of the things where we benefit in hindsight, because it's a big moment when Meatloaf shows up, because you go, oh, fuck, it's Meatloaf.
And you know what? Because he was in that LA cast at the Roxy of Rocky Horror Show.
Okay.
And he played both Eddie and Dr. Scott.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not going to lie. Trying to imagine Richard O'Brien in this role makes no sense to me. Like, I appreciate that he wanted something where he could just pop in and out of the production, but this feels so wrong for what we see of the actor.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, Richard O'Brien doesn't give me biker, but for all I know, he is a biker, you know?
I mean, he could be. Yeah. Okay, so during this song, like, we basically watch it play out, and Riff Raff and Magenta are hinting at their incestuous relationship, although I don't think we have confirmation that they are brother and sister until later in the film.
I think it's in the end when they're in their alien garb, and they're like, hello, brother, hello, sister, or they say something like that. And then we also kind of learn that Columbia they either had a relationship or she just had feelings for Eddie in this sequence.
Oh, no. Like, they have definitely had some kind of romantic relationship. I mean, I think you can read it later when we see her room, and it's just covered with pictures of Eddie, like literally blown up pictures on the wall. Maybe she felt a little more strongly about him.
I didn't know if it was reciprocated. Like, is this, she just has a crush and she's obsessed with him, or did they actually have a relationship? Because I don't know if we ever actually find that out.
There's a moment in the song Hot Patootie where she jumps into his arms and he kind of dirty dancings her.
Right.
So I read it as partially he was imprisoned in the freezer by Frankenfurter because he engaged in a sexual relationship with Columbia, because we will also come to find out Frankenfurter has fucked Eddie.
Yes, and then used his brain, split it in half, and used half of that brain to put in Rocky. So
yeah.
That's again another example of Frankenfurter's like mad scientist thing, where it's like, oh, he didn't want him to have a full brain because he wanted to have control over him.
Yeah, and it feels like a kind of punishment. Like, if you go against Frankenfurter, he will do this to your brain. He will throw you in the freezer. He will socially isolate you, and so on.
And I think there's something too about like the angry queer here, right? Like a person who is he's a villain, but I guess maybe that's my earlier question about, like, you know, do you feel bad? Do you empathize with Frankenfurter? Where it's like, I guess as queer people, we probably should, because even though we can say, yes, he's not a great person or alien, making like awful, like horrible decisions to hurt people, but when we get to his song later, the I'm Going Home or whatever, it's kind of like, oh, it's because though he's felt so isolated and discriminated against because of his transvestite lifestyle.
Yeah, like in some ways he's a petty bitch, but he's lashing out because he himself has felt hurt. You know, hurt people, hurt other people. Again, not condoning it, not excusing it, but
explaining it.
Yeah. We get to a point where we at least understand why Frankenfurter is doing some of the things that he does.
And I think, on a level, you know, I'm sure a lot of people really empathize with Frankenfurter, because I think it kind of mirrors maybe their own feelings they've had in their own life regarding their own sexuality.
Absolutely. Yeah. So this is a fun number. It unfortunately ends with Frankenfurter tracking Eddie down back in the freezer and killing him, albeit off screen, but we do see quite a bloody trail leading into it. And Columbia's just kind of screaming and screaming. And then the film, almost as if to say, oh, stop it. Don't get too serious about this. We just go back into I can make you a man. This is where Janet chimes in that now she is a muscle fan.
Oh, she just she interjects in this song. Like, it just comes in. I was like, oh, okay, Janet, here you go. So this is the start of Janet's transformation.
Here we go. And Brad looks shocked by this admission as well.
Mm-hmm.
And then we get the wedding march as Frank and Rocky stroll into the bridal suite. And then we're off to the sexy shenanigan nighttime races, because at the sound of a gong, the criminologist explains that Brad and Janet are feeling apprehensive, but that's because they're being sent to separate bedrooms. So Janet goes to her red bedroom, Brad goes to his blue bedroom. This is clearly the exact same bedroom, just with a different lighting scheme, a la Cube. And let's talk about consent, Trace.
I figured that. Okay, I think these jokes are so fucking funny.
I think that they're hilarious, but this is another piece where when I first watched the film, I was focusing on, oh, it's hilarious that we're doing these jokes, these callbacks. Like, we're using the exact same line of dialogue with both Janet and Brad as Frankenfurter puts the moves on them. And I found that really delightful. I found this sexually subversive. But to echo back to our discussion about the misogyny with Janet, this is one of those things where I think we just have a very different appreciation of consent. And this, I think, also, I'm not going to say it has aged terribly, but it does reinforce this idea of like a predatory queer figure. Or if you read Frankenfurter as a trans figure, all of a sudden now we've got a predatory trans person who is going after quote unquote straight people with the intent of like sexually molesting them.
Right. Okay. I get that. And I totally understand that. But also, like, with the progression of each scene, Brad and Janet want it. They maybe resist it at first, but they change their mind and they go into it.
Yeah. And folks, we're going to put parentheticals on this part of the discussion because we're talking specifically about this film. We're not expanding out into real life culture where like, oh, she wore a short dress and she was asking for it, that kind of shit. Like, no, don't take our words out of context. In this film specifically, what we learn of Brad and Janet is that it's not that they needed somebody to come across and do this to them so that they could lighten up and get into sexual territory. It was rather that they had never really explored their sexuality. And sure, Frankenfurter does not ask permission to do that. But by the end of the film, yeah, you get the sense that Janet and Brad are actually kind of happy with the fact that they went on this journey.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's because we're in the 70s, so we're out of the free love of the 60s. You know, we will be talking about this actually in the future very soon. But I don't know. I get it. I get it. I just don't feel particularly strongly about it. And maybe it's just because this is a moment wrapped up in so much obvious comedy. Yeah, I mean, again, I love the, what have you done with Brad? Nothing. Why do you think I should?
My favorite is, do you want them to see you like this?
Yeah, oh my God, yeah. Again, like, it's absolutely wild. And then both Janet and Brad, they have this like, stop. Oh, I mean, help. Like, because if y'all haven't seen this movie, the way it happens, like, so Janet is lying in bed, Brad sounds and looks like a silhouette of Barry Bostwick coming in, and then Janet's like rubbing his head and pulls a Brad wig off, and oops, it's Frankenfurter. And it's actually funnier when it happens to Brad.
100%, because we've already seen it with Janet, and you think, oh, that's not great. But then when it happens to Brad, and it's the exact same language, it's the exact same staging, the dialogue is one-to-one, you're just like, oh God, of course we're going to do it this way. And honestly, yeah, I fully acknowledge this is not consent, and I appreciate that if people say, ooh, like we're condoning sexual assault, it's not great. Sure. But I just cannot be mad at this movie for this scene.
I think, again, this is where we're going into, like, the era of camp and poor taste. Like, if this was in a John Waters movie, I would say, yeah, that's what this is, and I wouldn't bat an eye about it. Like, that's just what it is. And so I think, I'm not saying that camp excuses it, but I'm just saying that, well, camp kind of, like, softens the edges for me. Like, I don't view this as, oh my God, this is a rape.
Yeah, even though it technically
kind of is. Yeah. Again, like Frankenfurter is Janet. Oh, Brad, you're so strong and protective.
Oh, you beast! I would have never.
Also, because like I never caught this before, but at the end of Brad's scene, Frankenfurter absolutely goes down and starts blowing him, and we get like a sound effect as he goes down.
I mean, my favorite visual image is we're watching all of this on monitors, right? Mm-hmm. And we see when Janet discovers that Brad has been, unfaithful to her.
And he's just smoking a cigarette.
And you're just kind of like, he looks a little dejected, but it's also kind of like, whew, I just had a really good lay and I got to smoke this one out.
That's what I mean, again, like, where is the line when it morphs from, like, non-consensual to consensual? I guess we don't really see that transition because we don't actually witness the act of sex itself.
No, but I mean, there is this moment where upon discovering Frankenfurter, they're both like, oh my God, oh, I can't believe it or whatever. And then Frankenfurter says, but it wasn't all bad, was it? And then they agree to resume having sex with him. So even upon discovering I have been duped into at least the initial stages of sexual intercourse, they both then willingly submit.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's in that, oh, stop, I mean, help! And we just go back to the moaning and the orgasming sounds.
Yes. There's also a good wordplay joke because intercut in between Janet and Brad, we do actually have Riff Raff, basically doing a bit of kink play with Rocky and the candelabra because we're pouring some hot wax on the creature. Mm-hmm. And he runs out and the dogs chase him. And we have Riff Raff opening up this intercom mid-coitus between Frankenfurter and Brad. And he says, hey, master, the dogs are after the creature. You should probably come. And Frankenfurter just kind of goes, coming. Okay, so yes, Janet goes up to the lad. She sees that Brad has fucked Frankenfurter.
Okay, wait, I'm sorry. I love the way this is shot, though, because we get all these jump cuts. And every single new sentence is a jump cut, but Janet's like, if only we hadn't made this journey, jump cut. If only the car wouldn't have broken down, jump cut. If only we were amongst friends, jump cut. Or sane persons, or Brad.
Yeah, and she's doing a literal, wrist to the forehead.
Yes.
Oh my God.
I love it so. I mean, I love Susan Sarandon's performance in this movie.
It's very, very funny. Yeah. So this is when we go into arguably, I think, the most famous song after Sweet Transvestite and the Time Warp of this movie. So touch me.
This song is horny.
Oh, it's so horny. And here's the thing that I love the most. Like, Susan Sarandon, I don't think she has, like, the greatest vocal registry, but fine. She's good for whatever she has to do in this movie. But I love that while she's having this sexual blossoming with Rocky during this song, we have Magenta and Columbia watching her like they're watching pornography at a slumber party. Like, Columbia literally has Mickey Mouse ears on.
Yeah, and then they start fucking.
And I never remember that these two are hooking up. It totally makes sense. Everybody in this movie is fucking everyone. There's a literal orgy that ends the film.
It does make me wish, too, that, like, we have Brad and Janet interacting with the servants a bit more. Because, like, because Magenta and Columbia seem fat. Because one of Janet's lines is, I'd only ever kissed before. And so, saying, I was a virgin before tonight. And
oh, they both were. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And so, Magenta and Columbia are so fascinated by that. And that's what gets them into it. So, watching this formerly prude virgin, like, just lose herself sexually and actually be the instigator of sex.
Yeah.
So, she's not being tricked by, actually, she's adopted the Frankenfurter role in this sequence.
Has. Yeah, I mean, he's kind of like, sure, whatever, I'll go along with anything. And she's the one who's like, oh, I want more. I want to practice. I want to experiment and feel this. And yeah, I just love that Columbia and Magenta are watching this and they're interacting like they are watching the Rocky Horror Picture Show. Like, they are the audience and they are interacting with the screen. Yeah. They're getting into it with the motions. I don't know. I love this as another piece of metatextual element.
And I will say, on this Strange Journey documentary, they have a couple talking heads that aren't involved with the actual show, but one of them is Karen Tongson, who's a queer studies scholar. She's the department chair of gender and sexuality studies at USC, University of Southern California. But she says about the sequence, Janet's sexual liberation came in the wake of real-life right to choose and reproductive rights. So it mirrored the times. Rocky Horror allowed generations of women who repressed who they are sexually, regardless of sexuality, to imagine what it would be like to be an active sexual subject.
Right. And another thing about the 1975-ness of it all is that this is coming less than a decade after, and in some cases only like a couple of years after, sex between men was decriminalized and removed from that psychiatric disorder manual. So like basically this film is positioned right at a time when the sexual revolution is actively taking off. Not like the free love movement, but like women's liberation and yes, the right to choose, abortion, that kind of stuff. Like this movie is a reflection of how people like queers and women, they now have options and they can actually live the sexually liberated life that they want to have.
Yeah, exactly. So that's all baked into this sequence.
Especially the end of this, right? So the way that this is shot, and again, this to me feels so audacious and experimental and kind of fun. We end Janet, I think we're meant to read this as a bit of an orgasm, but like we have Rocky peering over her, and then we substitute out literally every other member of the cast that we have met up to now.
So it's like they're all fucking her.
It's like they're all fucking her, and or she's getting off on the idea of all of these people fucking her, and it also anticipates the orgy that will end the film.
Okay, I'm glad you brought that up because I was going to forget to bring this up. But like we've seen like some kind of adaptations of Rocky Horror over the years. I didn't see the 2016 one with Laverne Cox because I heard it was like sanitized and really bad. But
it's not good.
Glee did an episode,
Glee did this, yes.
And it was called the Rocky Horror Glee Show. And the reason I'm bringing this up now is because Jayma Mays' character gets the touch me song because she's kind of sexually repressed and she finally fucks Mr. Shu or whatever. But the way,
sorry, that was a sentence.
I hate Glee so much.
Wow, okay.
The first season. The first half of the first season is fantastic, amazing television, and then it just Ryan Murphy's it all up. But anyway, but they tried to emulate the way that this song is filmed, including that final bit with, all these people like over her.
It's all boys, isn't it?
It's all the high school kids.
Oh, no.
That's the thing.
No.
So it's her sitting on lying on the bed getting fucked, presumably by Shu, but then you have the rest of the child cast going creature of the night, and they're filming it just like this where they're over her, and I'm like, I don't think y'all understood what the movie was doing in this scene, because basically what you were doing is we were seeing all these fucking minors fuck this teacher.
Yeah, that's going to be a no for me, dog.
The Rocky Horror Glee Show is one of the worst things I have ever seen. It is awful.
Hello, histrionic. I don't think it's one of the worst things you've ever seen.
It is really bad. Actually, funnily enough, former guest on the show, Emily Vanderwerf from our American Horror Story Asylum, that was when she was still writing for AV Club, gave that episode of Glee an F.
Wow. Yeah, I remember that. I think it's Chord Overstreet is Rocky, and I think I was still actively watching Glee at the time. I like it. I don't think it's perfect, and you're right, it absolutely shits the bed at a couple of different points, but I like that it made stars of a bunch of those people, because I do think the singing was legitimately pretty good.
Oh, yeah.
I also like the Britney and Santana stuff. I know that was very, very important to a large number of queer women. So
again, there were good parts to it. The writing was just always god-awful.
Oh, yeah. I mean, as you said, Ryan Murphy got a Ryan Murphy. But I remember thinking, okay, well, at least we're going to get Chord Overstreet in this.
It's Chord, by the way.
Sorry. I'm going to keep saying Chord because now it's funny.
Okay.
I thought we were going to see him in the briefs. And instead we do like a square cut boxer.
Right.
So underwhelmed. I was like, you can't even commit to the fucking bit.
You can't just make Rocky Horror for TV, y'all. That's what we've learned.
No, probably not.
Yeah.
Okay. So Frankenfurter arrives on the lift. He is whipping riffraff. I'm not going to lie. I think that there's more S&M stuff in this to like unlock people's kinks.
Yeah.
Like, oh, am I getting turned on by this moment? Maybe. But this is when a visitor arrives. So let's introduce Brad's disabled mentor, Dr. Everett V. Scott, who is played by Jonathan Adams. And Frankenfurter notes that Scott works for the government in the Bureau investigating UFOs. So this seems deliberate. He's going to argue. He thinks that Brad is lying about what brought them to the castle. This is an accident. This isn't happenstance. This was a carefully calibrated plot. So we bring Dr. Scott in his wheelchair through the Zen room, which some people have definitely described as not a great moment. Like we definitely play some kind of like Asian-y music as we go through the Zen room.
Sure.
Okay. I do love the speed with which we move Dr. Scott through all the different rooms. It's like he's guided on a track that he has no control of, and then he just bursts through the wall of the lab.
Well, I like because he goes into the room that Columbia is like lounging on and just drives around her couch like twice.
Yeah, and she's kind of like, oh, who's that? What's going on?
And this is where we get the clue that, oh, these are aliens. Because, as the line you said at the top of the episode, Riff Raff asks, do you know this Earthling? I mean, this person.
Yeah, we definitely have a Frankenfurter kind of look at him. Hey, watch what you're saying. So Dr. Scott confesses he is not here for Brad. He is actually here for Eddie, who is revealed to be his nephew. And then this is when we go into our favorite joke. Janet, Dr. Scott, Janet, Brad, Rocky!
Dr. Scott! Also, whenever Dr. Scott bursts through the wall, Brad's line is, "Great Scott!"
Oh, it's so dumb.
I love shit like that.
Yeah.
But yeah. Oh, because with the Janet, Brad, Rocky, like whenever we get Rocky, because Rocky doesn't speak, it's just like a stare from Rocky.
I wrote in my notes, mute silence.
Dr. Scott. This entire, the funniest joke in the movie to me. This again, and the why do you think I should?
It's just so silly, right?
It's so good.
Okay, so this is obviously an uncomfortable moment where nobody quite knows what to say, so enter Magenta, who will cut through the awkwardness by declaring, "Master, dinner is prepared."
And formal dress is to be optional, per Frankenfurter.
Yes, which basically means you can continue to wear your underwear.
Yeah.
So Riff Raff and Magenta wheel out a large piece of meat, which is pretty obviously a turkey, but it's fine. We're going to cut it up with an electric carving knife. We're going to sing a partial happy birthday to Rocky, but I love that Frankenfurter just cuts this out as soon as other people begin to sing.
Well, and we can clue into the fact that they're actually eating Eddie before it's even revealed, because Scott asks about Eddie, and Frankenfurter says something like, while he's cutting the meat, "Oh, you see, that's a tender subject. Would anyone else like a slice?" And I think everyone, because Columbia then goes out and like screams in the next room. So I think everyone but Dr. Scott realizes what they're eating.
Yes, Dr. Scott and also Rocky will continue to eat.
Yes. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Okay, so this is when we get a little bit of backstory for, I guess, Dr. Scott, but more so Eddie. So the song is actually called Eddie, and we talk about how he was engaged in things like rock and roll porn, and all he wanted to do was do drugs, and he was a bad son. He left the day that his mother died, and again, with the repetition, because this movie loves to do that. So before we go into the chorus, each time we do, "What a guy, makes you sad, and I did."
And I did.
This is when we reveal that Eddie's body is not just what we've been eating, but he is literally in a coffin beneath the table. So we just kind of whip off the top of it, and there he is.
The coffin is the table.
Yeah, which is wild. I mean, set design, very fun.
It's very Snow White.
Oh, yeah. So this is when Janet runs to Rocky instead of Brad, causing Frankenfurter to slap her, and then we will really go into the misogyny in a very funny song.
Oh, man.
We do the Planet Schmanet Janet, and Frankenfurter chases her around the house.
Doom, 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 doom. I love this song, too.
My favorite line, there's two of them. So the gross line is, "Your apple pie don't taste too nice."
Yes!
Gross. It actually made me think of From Dusk Till Dawn. Apple pie pussy.
Yeah,
But the line that I actually think is very funny because it kind of has religious overtones is when he asks her, "When we made it, did you hear a bell ring?"
Oh. See, I just love fun rhymes in these songs. So that we have the transducer will seduce ya.
What about, "You better wise up, build your thighs up"?
Yes. Again, that's it. So these are all innuendos. And so if you, I think it's a thing where too, because again, these aren't the type of songs that I would normally listen to in a musical. It was was hard for me on so many of my first viewings, again, in those shadow casts, to really pay attention to what they were actually saying in the songs. I got the dialogue, but when the lyrics were hard for me to latch onto until many viewings later. So
I won't lie, I never really caught most of these lyrics until this rewatch, because I watched it with the subtitles on. And yeah, the lyrics are actually very smart and catchy in equal regard.
Agreed.
Yeah, so Frankenfurter ends up using the sonic transducer to lock everyone in place. Oh, my feet, I can't move my feet.
I'm glued to the floor.
And then we get a variation of the Planet Schmanet Janet song, only we switch it out for Planet Hot Dog. So everybody has a turn at yelling at Frankenfurter, "You're a hot dog, but you better not try to hurt her, Frankfurter." And then, yes, we get the Medusa machine, which never made sense to me. And then I'm like, oh, duh. What does Medusa do? She turns people to stone.
And I love it. Like, everyone gets a big old bush in their statues.
Oh, or a dick. Yeah, like everybody's totally cut. Yeah, I mean, turn me into one of these statues, please. This is where Columbia confirms that she had a sexual relationship with Eddie, but also Frankenfurter, and that Eddie and Frankenfurter had a sexual relationship. And there's this interesting moment where Frankenfurter, obviously he had designs for Dr. Scott as well as Brad and Janet. Like, they're the extras. They're the ads-on. He wasn't expecting them for the evening, but he seems almost sad to turn Columbia and Rocky into stone as well.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he's about to take them out of it anyway, so it's fine. But yeah, this is a moment, too, where Frankenfurter looks at the camera, so breaking the fourth wall, talking to the audience, and he says, "It's not easy having a good time. Even smiling makes my face ache. All my children turn on me. Rocky is behaving just the way Eddie did." So yeah, I guess that's the reveal, that he was having a relationship with Eddie.
Yeah. And I kind of love it for body positivity, too, because, like, you look at Rocky and, I mean...
It's the exact opposite body type as Eddie.
Yeah. And, like, there's no discussion about, oh, I don't find this person sexually attractive. It's like, I've seen a lot of people describe Frankenfurter as pansexual in that regard, because it truly does feel like it's not that he will sleep with anyone. It's that he does surround himself with people he finds sexually attractive.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so this is where we find out that Riff Raff and Magenta are siblings. This is also when she yells at him. She's tired of the game. She wants to go back to Transylvania, which we now learn is not on Earth. This is a completely different place, a different planet or a solar system.
It's the planet Transylvania and the galaxy transsexual.
There we go. Yes. I do love the line where she says she asks for nothing and he responds, and you'll get it in abundance.
Also, oh my God, Rocky Horvan's going to kill me. It's the planet transsexual and the galaxy Transylvania.
Jesus, Trace. Can you please get your shit together?
I know.
All right, let's move into the last act. It's time for the floor show. I've not really talked a ton about the criminologist. He tends to pop up for some commentary, but it's usually a line or an observation.
And it's not really that important, to be honest.
I think it's important as a framing device to set it up. You know, I like the fact that he has this all in a book and then he's telling it to us like it's an oral story. It works for me within the metatextualness of the story.
Because he's reading like the witness statements. And one thing I did love at the very, when we first meet the criminologist and he opens this book, the pictures he has for Brad and Janet are like headshots.
Yeah. I would like to be in this true crime case of the Rocky Horror Picture Show.
I love it so much.
So the criminologist wonders how this floor show is going to work when the ballroom is empty and it's the middle of the night. And then we see Frank almost in kind of housewife makeup. You know, I've got my hair up and I've got a face cream on. I'm hurriedly trying to get everything ready, getting everybody's makeup did and getting the feather boas on. And then this is where we kind of pull out and see that they are posed in a line, all dressed identical in garters and bikini briefs and fishnets and this kind of stuff. And then they get de-medusa'd. So it's the same idea. Of course, the sound effect is...
One at a time as we get Rose Tent My World is the song. And basically, each one of them gets their own. It's not even an I want. It's more so like this is my journey song. Like, this is where, from point A to point B, this is where I am now. And it's, you know, their own personal stories.
And the article that I mentioned earlier about the song register of Brad and how it intersects a little bit with Frankenfurter. So particularly in this song, Brad is no longer the kind of wide-eyed ingenue male equivalent. Like he's not doing soft boy rock. All of a sudden he's discovering he has extreme sexual urges, but they frighten him. Like, I actually really like Bostwick's delivery of several of these lines when he says things like, I feel sexy.
Oh, and he is rocking the fishnet stockings and the heels. Like, his legs are legging.
Oh. I mean, Barry Bostwick is a tall man, but there's something about the confidence which with people perform as well. Like, nobody looks uncomfortable in the outfits, even when they get de-Medusa'd. And I will say, Barry Bostwick handles the heels and the outfit.
Yeah.
Like, it's hot. It is very hot.
And they've all got, like, mime-painted, like, white faces. This is cabaret, right?
It's cabaret. It's a little bit burlesque. It feels the Japanese kabuki-esque kind of thing.
Yeah, a lot of different influences. And then we get the backdrop come down. And this is of the RKO Pictures logo, the radio tower.
Which is wild that you then confirmed to me that this is a 20th Century Fox production.
Right.
Because I was like, did they inherit RKO? Is that why they're able to do this? Or is it just that RKO was the principal studio that was producing most of the films that we reference from the 40s and 50s?
Yeah, maybe.
Anyway, this is Don't Dream It, Be It. And this is where we get the words, give yourself over to absolute pleasure. So really, this is kind of the thesis song of the film.
Yeah. Like, hey, rest your laurels and get horny and have sex.
Yeah, and stop getting in your head about it. If you want to do it, then you should do it. To me, this feels like a queer siren song. Like, come to the pool, let's fuck.
This is very much, all those audiences that started the cult in the 70s, like, this is what I think kept bringing people back. I mean, yes, the film is fun. There's fun, catchy tunes. It's silly. It's ridiculous. But it is, I think, the messaging of all of this, where it's like people who didn't feel like they had a community, they didn't feel like they had a home, these screenings became that home. That, again, much like a gay bar or a gay club. But, like, hey, I know a lot of gay people that don't like going to gay bars or gay clubs. And this is like another version of that where it's, this beautiful, free, safe haven. And I think it's really visualized in this next set of the song, which with Don't Dream It, Be It, where they all get in this pool and essentially having an orgy. Like, they are all kissing each other up and above and around the water.
Oh, yeah. And we should note that, of course, the bottom of the pool is revealed to have an image. So this is Michelangelo's The Image of God creating Adam. And when Frankenfurter hops into the pool, I mean, I love the way that this is shot. There's fog, and we don't know what he has dropped into. We can hear the water splash, and then the fog just immediately dissipates, and we're doing a bird's eye view over top of him. But we're getting warning signs, Trace, that this is not all good, because if you look carefully, Frankenfurter is floating in a inner tube that is from the Titanic, which is a disaster. And then he is positioned directly between God and Adam, like basically where their fingers touch in the image, as if to suggest the hubris. He is headed for a downfall because Frankenfurter fashions himself a god.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, we pick up tempo here, and Franco, oh my god.
Woo! Speaking of sexual assault.
I know, right? Frankenfurter, gets this wild and untamed thing. This is my favorite portion of the song, like this kind of medley we're getting. It's the fast-paced song, right? Like and then we do a can with everyone, and all very fun. Dr. Scott comes in with, I was like, is that actually this actor's leg in this wheelchair? Like, it looks so, like, long compared to how he's sitting, but...
I mean, we can't gauge how tall he actually is because we never actually see him.
Right.
Although I will say, I'm sure you're going to love this, there's an ableist critique of this where, sure, it's dealing in fantasy, but this idea that, we can just magically have the wheelchair-bound character participate in this, doing kicks and that kind of stuff. So,
I buy into it because it's alien magic, though. It's alien tech.
Sure.
Yeah, sure. Why not? But this is, I think, where I think both of us maybe struggle with the film a little bit, because basically this...
It loses a sense of pacing, I think.
Yeah, well, because it's quick, right? Because Riff Raff and Magenta just barge in.
Yep.
And they actually finish. I think they sing the last verse of the song of Wild and Untamed thing, and then it's like, okay, they come in. They're wearing these very, very stereotypically 50s like sci-fi alien outfits with magenta having
the black and gold, and yes, we're doing a Bride of Frankenstein, Elsa Lanchester hair.
But it's all of a sudden they're mutinying, and Riff Raff's like, I'm the new boss. We're all going back to Transylvania, and that's it. And this just feels so quick.
Yeah, like, folks, if you're just like, oh my God, why is Trace rushing through all of this? It's because it kind of feels like, oh, we're just moving through things. Like, the film doesn't take a moment to breathe.
Like, we've just gone through 3 songs. Like, and again, it's kind of a medley. Like, I think the way even it's structured on the soundtrack, it's like one track where it's Rose Tint My World / Don't Dream It Be It / Wild and Untamed Thing.
Yeah.
But again, like, it's a whirlwind, and then all of a sudden, and this is an issue that I do struggle with a lot of musicals, where it's like, granted, I don't think the Rocky Horror Show was presented with an intermission, but typically, Act 2 of a musical is
not as good.
It's darker, more serious. There's usually a shift in tone, unless it's something like bubblegummy, like Legally Blonde, you know.
Right.
And I typically find myself struggling with that shift in tone from the more energetic, fun, silly, free first act of a musical. And then as Hair is actually a really good example of that too, because Hair goes into like deep, like Vietnam War stuff. And I just struggle with it. And I struggle with it here too, because I'm like, wait, no, I'm having so much fun. Why are we getting serious now? And we're rushing through the seriousness, so it doesn't always feel fully earned.
I partially agree with you. Most of the time when I watch it, I find this is not as much fun. And that's the thing that I'm not enjoying anymore. I'm like, where's the campy fun? Where's the energy? Where's the, sassiness of it? And then you have to realize, oh no, the film is definitely doing typical musical Act 2 kind of thing, but also we have to punish these characters. It has to get darker. It has to get more realistic and grounded, because we're also still aping those films from the 40s and 50s, which are Hays Code era. They're driven by a particular kind of storytelling. And yeah, so like it's an awkward transition. I agree with you. I think if it was a little bit differently paced, this would maybe go down easier. It's tough, though, because I do think some of these songs are pretty good. It's just that we can't always appreciate them. I mean, I've definitely grown more appreciative of I'm Going Home, which always felt like, oh my God, this song just goes on and it's so long. But I think that Tim Curry is like singing the shit out of it. And I kind of like that we can see the wear and tear of his isolation, even in the way that his makeup is running down his face. And
I'm Going Home is not my favorite song in this musical. I really like what it represents, because, this really is the queer anthem here, where he's really opening up about the isolation he's felt, about how not discriminated against, but it's more so he's never found like his home. He's never found that space. And that's what he's been trying to do this entire time in this movie, albeit through, less than nice means.
Yeah. I also really like that the auditorium, like, this is the most fantasy element of this entire movie, because in a way this is a hallucination of Frankenfurter, where he sees all the Transylvanians in the audience and they're applauding him. And this is the first time I think that the reactions of that group have matched the tone of the song, where they're saying like, this is a great melancholy kind of very vulnerable performance, and they give him that applause that he's looking for at the end.
And I think that's it. I think so. To expand upon what I said, like, I think it's Curry's performance that makes this song, for me specifically. I'm sure for a lot of people, like, the song itself does a lot of the work. I just don't pick up on that all the time. But the emotionality that Curry brings to this performance makes me feel something.
Yes. Okay, before we move on to the quote-unquote action climax, because really we're already there, 2 quick things. So I have never gotten Janet's reference during the kind of orgy in the pool montage. She says, thank God for Lily St. Cyr.
Okay.
I never understood what that was, so I took the time to look it up this time. And Lily St. Cyr is a burlesque dancer and stripper whose acts were often decried by members of the church and also prudes for being immoral, obscene, and indecent. So it's basically like a trailblazer who championed women's sexuality specifically.
Okay, there's actually a lot of references, like Frankenfurter references Charles Atlas twice, I think, in Sweet Transvestite, and that's an Italian-American bodybuilder.
Yes, I did know that, but only because of I think there was like either peanuts or that shitty baseball gum where there was a joke in it about like getting the Charles Atlas manual to beef up. Never made sense to me, but now I get it. Okay, one other piece, when Riff Raff and Magenta do come in, and we talked about their kind of improved outfits, I could not stop thinking about Sterba, the werewolf bitch of Howling 2. Your sister is a werewolf. Does this not look very similar to the costume that she wears in the finale of that film?
Yes. Oh my God, it so does. Actually, maybe Howling 2 was inspired by Rocky Horror.
I think it's entirely possible. It's a decade later. Folks, if you want to hear us react to that in real time, we do have an audio commentary on it on the Patreon.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then the final piece is that when Frank sits on the stage during I'm Going Home, so he just kind of like stops and sits on the edge for a little bit. This is apparently, according to the trivia track, a homage to Marilyn Monroe in the film Bus Stop, as well as actions that Judy Garland would do in concert.
Oh, okay. See, again, things I never would have picked up on.
Yeah, no, absolutely not. Okay, so Riff Raff and Magenta have come in. They're completely bored by this entire song. Like, we literally have a moment where Magenta yawns.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, at the behest of Dr. Scott, who we have come to realize at this point, he may be Brad's mentor, but he's also a representative of very traditional heteronormativity. So he's threatened by the aliens, by the sexuality. Like, he talks when he gets de-Medusa'd after everybody else before he joins the kick line. He's like, oh, we've got to stop this before we all get totally corrupted, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So he says society must be protected, which sounds like something that people often wield against the queer community, and specifically trans people nowadays. And he tells this to Riff Raff, and this is right before Riff Raff kills Columbia, and then Frank, and then finally Rocky.
With these great antimatter ray guns that look terrible, but it's so funny.
I loved the design, and the look when they actually shoot is very silly.
Yeah, they like oh yeah, and then it like ricochets off of Rocky, which I think is a great touch.
Well, yes, because we already referenced Fay Ray, so then we have to do our King Kong impersonation as Rocky picks up the body of his dead creator and climbs up the RKO tower, and then we get the sound effect of a plane crashing or King Kong falling off the Empire State Building.
Yeah, admittedly, I was kind of like, that killed him. Because basically, like, the tower's not that tall, but like it falls off while he's carrying Frankenfurter up, and they just fall in the pool. And
it only took one shot to kill Columbia and Frankenfurter, and Rocky takes like 4 hits.
Yeah, but I thought because it ricochets off of him, I thought the implication was that he's immune to the ray guns because he's not. He was created. He's not like a regular quote unquote human.
Oh, I just took it to be that he's strong enough that he can withstand this a couple of times, whereas anybody else would just die on 1 hit.
Okay, that makes more sense because I was like, that fall would not have killed him, but whatever.
Yeah, so basically everybody except the humans, as well as Riff Raff and Magenta, are deadzo.
Well, but Magenta even questions Riff Raff and was like, why'd you kill them? I thought you liked them. And I was like, well, why didn't you stop him? I never liked them. Yeah, he's like, they never liked me. Ah!
Yeah.
But yeah, so they're like, cool, hey humans, go away. We're gonna blast off this castle into space.
Yeah. I had a question earlier that I realized kind of gets answered in this climax where, like, what is the mission that Frankenfurter is alleged to have failed in doing? But I realized he talks earlier in the lab where they've perfected this, moving time and space. Like, it's basically, it's Doctor Who and the TARDIS and that kind of stuff. But
sure.
By sticking around and not going back home, this is how Frankenfurter has failed the mission. So this is what Riff Raff and Magenta are going to do. They miss the dark waters of Transylvania, and they're going to go back.
Mm-hmm.
So the 3 humans escape as the house basically launches off into space. I think the song that they're singing is called Superheroes, but...
Superheroes is what they sing once Brad starts singing in the foggy ground.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so we're basically just kind of crawling around. We're all dirty. We find each other in the rubble.
They're disoriented.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've got the spinning camera overhead, which is pretty fun shot because we do a match on to the globe in the criminologist's office. And then he basically turns out the light because the story is over. The globe continues to shine. And then we get the reprise of science fiction double feature and character credits.
Yep. And I love the character credits.
I mean, we always love them. See also every Scream film.
Yeah, but I guess just to touch on superheroes where we leave this, because it's a very short song, but like each character gets like one little verse. Brad says, "I've done a lot. God knows I've tried to find the truth. I even lied, but all I know is down inside I'm bleeding."
Ooh. You should get that looked at. Also, use more lube.
Yeah. Janet says, "And superheroes come to feast, to taste the flesh not yet deceased. And all I know is still the beast is feeding."
Methinks Janet likes what she's discovered about herself.
Yeah, and then Scott's like, "And crawling on the..." Oh, sorry. And then the criminologist chimes in. So we come back to the criminologist and says, "And crawling on the planet's face, some insects called the human race, lost in time and lost in space and meaning." So we're all just insects on this giant ball of a planet. And ultimately, what does anything mean?
Right. And also, a shout out to Lost in Space.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, that's the Rocky Horror Picture Show?
That is the Rocky Horror Picture Show. I mean, I'm sure that we have missed innumerable references, and there are other things that people wish we had talked about, because even though this film is a B movie, and it's sometimes a very silly musical, I do think that there's actually quite a lot of depth in terms of the readings or what people bring to the film that they see reflected back.
I mean, I think the film is almost a Trojan horse in a way, where it's like, people look at the production value, look at the content, and they see something that's, again, low class, lowbrow, they write it off. But if you actually pay attention, this viewing for this recording was the most, like, attentive I have been to watching this movie, because, again, I'd only seen it with a bunch of other people screaming at the screen. And so I was pleasantly surprised to see, be like, there's a lot going on, both on the surface and under the surface of this movie.
Yeah. Surprisingly enough, it holds up as a movie in its own right, not just as a midnight cult film or something that you do a shadow cast to. Like, that changes the way that you can engage with the material, but even just as a standalone film, there's a lot to talk about here.
Well, and I think that's why when we talk about quote unquote bad cinema, it's like, well, what?
According to whom?
Who are the tastemakers? What determines what is good or bad? Why is something that is not like a deep, in-depth character piece considered less than or lowbrow? Or why are films or pieces of media with content that is taboo or not aligned with the social status quo? Like, why is that considered quote unquote bad? And I think that watching a film like Rocky Horror, where it's embracing the bad, and again, this is going into camp territory, but you can say, no, this is a good movie. It's not a so bad it's good. It's not it's a bad movie that happens to be good. It's just a good movie.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And hey, the extra cultural effect of bringing a lot of queer people together.
Yeah. Both on screen and off.
Yeah. So I don't know. Everyone, let us know. What are your thoughts on Rocky Horror? I'm actually really interested to see what your first time experiences were with this movie. How did you discover this movie? Have you grown an appreciation for it over the years, like Joe and I have, clearly? I don't know. This is one of those films that everyone has a deeply personal story about their relationship with it, which doesn't happen with many films.
Absolutely. Yeah. So if you do want to share, we'll maybe open up like a thread or something on the Discord so that people can actually like elaborate in a little bit of detail. We should also note, Trace, since this is episode 400, we did put a gentle call out if people wanted to share some of their thoughts about the podcast and what it has meant to them over the years. So we will probably circle back. We didn't give people very much time. So if you still want to write in something about that, do so, and maybe we'll revisit down the line in the future. But thank you to the couple of people who did write in.
Yeah, thank y'all so much. So before we announce what we're covering next week, some quick housekeeping on this 400th episode of Horror Queers. If you want to get in touch with us, you can reach us on Blue Sky and Instagram at Horror Queers. Shoot us an email at horrorqueers@gmail.com. Find us on Letterboxd to keep track of all the films we've covered. If you want to chat with other listeners, please join our aforementioned Horror Queers Discord. That link is in the show notes, everybody. If you have a moment, please rate and review us on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. And if you want more content, including ad-free main feed episodes, please support the show by becoming a patron at patreon.com/horrorqueers. If you subscribe today, you'll get 510 hours of Patreon content, including this month's new episodes on Hannibal Season 3, Episodes 7 and 8. Influencer, Teenage Sex and Death at Camp Miasma, Insidious Out of the Further, and an audio commentary on 2022's Fall in anticipation of the sequel hitting theaters next month.
Yeah.
But Joe, what are we talking about next week for episode 401?
Oh boy, yeah, the journey just continues, as always.
The strange journey, you might say.
The strange journey. And it's going to get stranger. We're going to, maybe, head into Texas again. We will talk about that in the production history. But we're going to keep a little element of camp, Trace. It's time to revisit the Sawyer family. So in honor of its upcoming 40th anniversary, we're going to talk about Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2.
Oh boy. Yeah, get ready to be manic, folks.
And get ready for Stretch to scream.
Scream, scream, scream. But yeah, before we burn it all down next week, I guess we can cross out the Rocky Horror Picture Show and episode 400.
There we go. Yes, and cross out horror queers.